Yes, we do.
4 to 7. 5 out of 7.
All right, adequate notice of this meeting has been made by sending notices on December 5th, 2014 to the Ridgewood News and the Record newspaper by publishing notice on the bulletin board in the lobby of the Borough Hall and filing a notice with the municipal clerk. I'd like to remind all members of the public that we have 3 fire exits in the council chambers, 1 to each side of the dais and 1 to the rear. In addition, we are being recorded both by audio and video for purposes of creating a public record of this meeting. If any member of the public wishes to be recorded, they need only, or to speak during the public portion of the meeting, they need only identify themselves so that we can make an adequate record and they can make any statement that they so wish. We have a very busy agenda. In addition, we have a few professionals here that we would like to take care of. We have our labor attorney, Mr. Giacobbe. His presentation is only going to take a few minutes to fill us in on some closed session agenda topics, namely the settlement of an arbitration and current negotiations with our PBA and DPW labor union. So I'd like to take those closed session matters first, which will require that we close to the public so that we can hear from our labor attorney. Can I have a motion to close to the public so that we can get the closed session out of the way?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Mayor, I'd ask Chief Peretti to be here also. If you want to give him a few minutes, I could just do the DPW real quick, and perhaps the chief will show up.
Good. Yourself.
Good. We're trying to have a date.
Do we?
Yeah.
Did I receive an email?
Yeah, next Tuesday, I think.
Oh, that one, yes, I have that, yes, absolutely.
How are you? So what day are you speaking at the league?
They have me on roles and responsibilities of government officials, or borough officials. Did for the last 3 years.
For the Institute of Municipal Attorneys,
Meeting of the River on Monday, April 20th, 2015. The time is now 8 p.m. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend any meetings of public bodies in which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the Act, the Mayor and Council have caused notice of this meeting to be published by having a date, time, and place posted in the Borough Hall, and notices were sent to the Record and the Ridgewood News. The mission of our governing body is to provide essential services through the establishment and implementation of public policy to safeguard the infrastructure, provide honest, courteous, and professional services, and to establish a sense of trust and accomplishment with our residents. We do this through research and prudent planning, seeking to minimize public risk while improving the delivery of municipal services. We are always sensitive to the needs of the taxpayer while realizing that this governing body cannot be all things to all people. Due to revenue constraints that are imposed by the present economic conditions and state mandates and prevailing attitudes about taxation, we are being recorded both by audio and video so we can make an adequate record of the public portion of the meeting. If during the open session, if any member of the public wishes to speak, they need only identify themselves and then they will be given an opportunity to be heard. Can we all please stand for a moment of silent prayer or reflection? Can we have Councilman Mignoli lead us in a salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Can I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the Mayor and Council regular meeting of April the 6th, 2015?
So moved. Second.
All right.
Mayor, did we need a roll call?
Roll call.
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you. Forgot about that.
Yes, here.
Councilman Capalla?
Here.
Councilwoman Dean?
Here.
Councilman Mignon?
Here.
Councilman Councilman Esposito is absent. Councilman Papalayo.
Here.
The record reflects Mayor Sandy Muscatolo and Thomas Sala, Borough Attorney, are also present.
All right. We need to have a public hearing on the amendment of the approved 2015 budget. Can I please have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That opens the public hearing on an amendment to the approved budget for 2015. Would any member of the public like to be heard on the 2015 budget? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing on the amendment to the 2015 budget?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Mercer?
Yes.
Councilman Capolo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Steve?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Papalayo?
Yes.
Okay. We have proclamations on this evening. We have Mr. Derbalian here who has agreed to receive the Armenian Genocide Day of Remembrance proclamation. We have Shade Tree Commission members present for the Arbor Day proclamation. Do we have someone, Stephanie, regarding the poppy sale days?
Yes, right there.
Oh, Joe.
Yes, Joe is here.
Okay, great. And for Loyalty Day?
I don't believe so.
Joe can take it.
All right, very good. All right, regarding the applicant, please. Regarding this is Admiral Derbalian, everybody. He sits on our town zoning board. Yep. And he's also active in some of the sports programs in town. Absolutely. And how long have you lived here? 19 years. Okay. Now, regarding the Armenian genocide, I have to apologize to Abel because I got the draft of the proclamation and I did some research myself and I made it much better than it's going to sound because my final draft never got back to Judy. But I will say that one of the famous quotations ever in history, one of the most infamous quotations, was by Adolf Hitler when he said, when he embarked on his campaign for the Jewish genocide, and he said, whoever remembers the Armenians, meaning that nobody would remember them. So we all here remember the Armenians. So whereas the starting date when the Ottoman government's systematic extermination of its minority Armenian subjects from their historic homeland within the territory constituting the present-day Republic of Turkey is conventionally held to be April 24, 1915. And whereas, on that day, the Ottoman authorities rounded up and elected 250 Armenian intellectual and community leaders in Constantinople. And whereas a genocide was carried out during and after World War I and implemented into 2 phases, the wholesale killing of able-bodied male population and the massacre and conscription to forced labor, followed by the deportation of women and children, the elderly and the infirm, who were marched into the Syrian desert. And whereas the total number of Armenians believed killed is estimated at between 1 and 1.5 million. And whereas other indigenous and Christian ethnic groups, such as the Assyrians and the Ottoman Greeks, were similarly targeted by the Ottoman government. Whereas the Armenian genocide is acknowledged to be one of the first genocides because scholars point to the organized manner in which the killings were carried out in order to eliminate the Armenians, and it is the second most studied case of genocide after the Holocaust. Now therefore be resolved that we recognize April 24, 2015 as Armenian Genocide Day of Remembrance here in River Edge. All right, Joe, come on up. Everybody knows Joe and Jerry. Come on, yeah, stand next to me. Here we go. Whereas the citizens of our community are extremely proud of its nation's more than 200-year history of freedom and are loyal to the ideals, traditions, and institutions which have made our nation so great. And whereas many Americans display their loyalty through careers in public service as members of our armed forces to ensure our nation remains strong and secure, as well as to defend democracy around the world. Many citizens give their time to causes greater than themselves through charitable, civic, church activities, demonstrate their loyalty by working to improve our country and the lives of its people. Whereas Loyalty Day recognizes the solemn bond between America and its citizens. It provides an opportunity to recognize those who demonstrate their loyalty every day and challenges all of us to find more ways to contribute to the general good. Whereas this glorious occasion will serve as a reminder of the loyalty of the members of the veterans of foreign wars throughout the United States, a loyalty they displayed while serving in our armed forces during wartime. Now there be a resolve. In recognition, we proclaim May 1st as Loyalty Day in River Edge. Joe, member of the VFW Post 876, congratulations on Loyalty Day, and give you the proclamation.
Sixth graders, which are particularly on the ceremony on that in the school.
Is it going to be inside the school?
Yeah, it's in school.
Okay.
Yes, we the history teachers.
Great. And while you're here, annual Poppy Day by the American Legions and the Veterans of Foreign Wars has been officially recognized and endorsed both by our council and by many government leaders as an annual occurrence, whereas the poppies are assembled by disabled veterans and the proceeds of the worthy fundraising cause from the annual poppy sale is used exclusively for the benefit of disabled and needy veterans, their widows and orphans of deceased veterans. Now, therefore, as the mayor of River Edge, we urge the citizens of our community to recognize the merits of this cause by generously contributing to its support through the purchase of poppies from May 1st to May 31st, which is designated as Poppy Sale Days in the borough of River Edge and all over the country. And we urge all citizens to support the American Legion Auxiliary under Sergeant Walter Scott Brown, Unit 226, Veterans of Foreign Wars Auxiliary of the Caldoni Flavor Cross Post 876 of River Edge by buying and selling and wearing a poppy. Usually we have Peggy's not here giving out the poppies, so we don't have it. They don't do it anymore? Oh, okay. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
If we got our shade tree members up. How are you? I got your note about the seedlings. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. Whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. Whereas trees reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, they cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, reduce oxygen, and provide wildlife habitat. Whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. Whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, provide a, what do you call it, a green
Canopy.
canopy. No, there's another word. There's another word for that. and beautify our community. Whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore, we hereby complain April 24th as Arbor Day in the borough of River Edge. I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day, support the efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. I know that at the school, we have an Arbor Day celebration this year that I'm going to attend. We have seedlings to give out to residents should they want to plant them. We have a tree farm. If anybody wants to help us plant some seedlings there, if the ones that we have didn't survive the winter. And I want to thank all the hard work, the dedication, and the volunteers throughout the year that our Shade Tree Commission puts on. I saw the new, I met with the new director of county parks, Mr. Comery, who said that the River Shade Tree Commission is known statewide for its excellence. Okay, how about we're going to jump around a little bit here. First, I'm going to, we're just going to take care of opening up to the public on any issue on this agenda. Then we're going to close, and I'm going to ask the council to go back into the work session so we can handle our professionals that are in the audience. Then we're going to jump back into the regular meeting. We'll take care of the rest of the business. So right now, can I have a motion, please, to open a public hearing on any issue on the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, would there anyone like to speak right now on any issue that's on the 8 o'clock agenda, knowing that we're going to come...
We're going to go back in.
That we're going to come back to it? Okay, I see a hand up. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Sandra Berman. I live at 373 Oak Avenue, and for the past 10-plus years, I've been a member of the board, the Senior Citizens of River Edge.
Right.
And in those past 10, 11 years, I have seen it grow, and a lot of programs, and most of the people that have been helping have been allowed to become members, even though they live in Bergen County. Many of them are volunteers that have done a lot of work keeping the senior center of River Edge particularly as good as it is. And I feel that because we didn't have an ordinance or bylaws or let you have all the workers and volunteers do such wonderful jobs, that they should be grandfathered in as members, that they were treated as members for the past 11 years that I know of. And we always do everything together. They come from the area outside of River Edge. We're all friends together, and we've been working at River Edge SCORE. And I really feel that they should be grandfathered in. Just because there was no other way of getting this organization running without them.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Arkelian.
I come with Community Block Grant News. Can I come up?
Sure.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I actually come with some good news. We had the allocation meeting tonight for Bergen County Community Block Grants, the Central Division, which I am your representative. And I'm happy to report that we walked away with about $86,500. I have it broken down. But $70,000 goes to your, I believe the application was for ramps and curb cuts. Alan, is that correct? And then for senior bus driver dispatches, we got $14,731. And for senior activities, we got $1,800, which is what was requested. So, just good news. So I figured I'd come up and report it.
Yeah, thank you for that information, that's very good.
I also have a survey that I'm going to give to our clerk, and I'll give one to Alan as well. This survey needs to be returned by 4:30 of this year, and basically it's they want looking for projections for the next 5 years of what the borough's going to be looking for. A lot of us discussed infrastructure. We discussed the aging sewer systems, aging roads, and so forth, to put forward, and that was what was reported tonight. But you can fill this out, and anybody anybody from the town, including the officials, citizens, whatever, can fill this out and send it in. So I'll give a copy to Alan. Thank you.
So we can scan it and put it on the website.
And I'll give a copy to... And there's one more copy here. If anybody wants it, I'll just leave it here. And again, good news. So I'm happy to report that.
Thank you,
Thank you, Jim.
Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, can I have a motion to go back into the work session?
So moved.
Second.
What? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, so on the work session, we're going to skip around a little bit. We have Mr. Miller here. Let's talk about the River Edge Farmers Market, if there's any questions. Gigi? Just give us your name for the record.
Gigi Manassi, manager River Edge Farmers Market.
Okay?
So what I wanted to talk to you folks about tonight was I heard that perhaps our vendors who are small vendors would be asked to pay a certain amount of money to the Department of Health. They're very small vendors. It's a community market. It's not Ramsey.
Can you describe the vendors that we had last year and who you think you're going to have this year?
Okay, we have Anderson Farms out of Sparta, Picklelicious, Teaneck, Gina's Bakery from Montclair. We have a green juice lady coming. She's from Bergenfield. We have, right now I'm waiting to get the applications in, so I don't want to commit the names of, you know, people that, Moon Doggy Coffee, Maywood, and there's other, but they're all small-scale vendors.
Right.
But they're also, Empanada Mania, there are also vendors that have restaurants and facilities that they already have whatever food handler certificates or state-sanctioned health department, you know, papers that any Department of Health would need. In addition, I think that it would be prohibitive for them to come to River Edge. Like I said, it's a community market. It's not a Ramsey market. It's not, you know, a Ridgewood market. It's a smaller market that's mostly a meeting area for members of this community. I don't know if that, you know, makes a difference, but you know.
Questions?
Do we know if any other towns require the separate issuance of a, you know, health code license, even though you may have a restaurant?
Yes, some of them do. Some of them don't. Here's my problem with how farmers markets are run in the state of New Jersey. New Jersey came to farmers markets later than many other areas in this country, and it seems to be allowed on a town-to-town-to-town basis. In my opinion, there should be a state commission for farmers markets that would make it more uniform as to what the procedure is. But if you have a restaurant coming that has all the food handlers, is inspected by the Department of Health, as our market was last year, to county standards. They all had all the paperwork that they needed to have.
It's redundant, you're saying?
It's a little overkill, in my personal opinion.
Ellen?
Hi, Gigi. Thank you for coming up, and thank you for all the work that you and Kathleen have done to get the farmers market off the ground. I'm excited to have it come back in June. I'm the liaison to the Board of Health, and I believe that you were all notified that on May 4th, the President of the Board of Health, Patricia Quartz, is going to appear before us to discuss the Board of Health's interest in putting a process in place to have vendors provide their food handler's license along with paying a nominal fee, which would be an annual fee to participate. I don't feel comfortable speaking on behalf of Patty Quartz, but she will be appearing on May 4th to explain what the Board of Health and the process they'd like to put in place. As it's been explained to me, this is not something that's to become an impediment to vendors participating in our community. So I think we have to give Patricia Quartz an opportunity to talk to the council about what process they're looking to put in place.
No,
and I would just like that opportunity, give them that opportunity.
I just worry about it becoming a matter of selective enforcement.
Well, I can't speak to that. I think we have
Okay.
to wait for... I just wanted to give the council and the audience a frame of reference of where this was coming from.
I'm not trying to be argumentative, but
No,
food is served in many other capacities in this town.
And it's not solely farmers markets, it's any vendor or organization that would be serving food in the community. They've talked about the St. Peter's Carnival, they've talked about schools.
I was going to say, what about school lunches?
Absolutely. So I think we need to give... I appreciate everything that you've said, and I think you've made some very great points, but I think we need to give the Board of Health an opportunity to discuss the process they'd like to put in place.
Okay. Kathleen?
I did see Patty on Saturday at the River Edge Run, and I did discuss, the whole fee structure and that how, there's not a lot of meat on the bone for these vendors. Their profit margins are fairly slim. So, we discussed, she said nominal, and I said, I wouldn't be in favor of that, but I would be in favor of providing all the documents, the food handlers and their license, and she said she would be open to that, and it would be something we would discuss. Because,
which I'm collecting now from the vendors that are coming, all their paperwork and all their certificates, anything they have from the state. A lot of them, like I said, have their own restaurants and so on, so it all has to be, for their own business to run, they need to have these things. So it's not just for River Edge Farmers Market that they need it.
Okay.
I also think, like the letter stated, there possibly could be exceptions for charitable 501c, which a lot of the other groups have that. The school has it, and all of those things are usually done by home cooks. That these exceptions would take place as opposed to professionals that do take food handlers courses and are inspected by the state.
The guidelines that we have for the market stipulate that the products sold cannot be made in the home kitchen. They all have to be made in an inspected commercial facility or restaurant.
These are just for any prepared foods, right? This is not...
Or even our farmer, per se, whatever he processes for market is done in a big... we visited his place, and he has, a huge, huge facility.
Okay.
In addition, they all cover they all carry umbrella policies of at least $1 million, $1.5 million, for their own liability, which they are willing to add our town name and the market to their policy for the season. Which, I know we live in a litigious society, so I understand the apprehension of, any Department of Health.
All of the vendors are required to sign a waiver?
Well, since they have their own liability, would
Right.
a waiver for that be redundant, since if we are listed on their
Oh, no.
insurance?
I mean for last year. Did
Yeah, they
everybody
have
sign the
in-depth
waiver?
application.
For last year, they did also. And there's one more thing I wanted to say about the market, is that this year we're intending on doing things to support the senior citizens of River Edge. We're going to be, with all the vendors involved, giving them some form of coupon that would allow them to shop the fresh vegetables and baked goods at a very discounted rate. And hopefully the town, we could work out a way for the bus to bring them there and allow them to do that. It's something to support the town. In addition, there's agricultural programs that I'm trying to bring in where school kids could be brought through the market. I'm working with a guy that raises only carnivorous plants, and they're amazing. It's not just your little Venus flytrap. And since in school they're studying the different areas of the world and plants and things like that, I thought it would be interesting to bring school groups through the market. So we're trying to grow it in a multi-purpose way that it helps the town, not just buying vegetables, but teaching them about a better way to live and to eat.
Because the senior van takes them, I believe, to ShopRite on Tuesdays. And if the market's on Tuesdays, they can make a stop there.
Which would be much healthier for anybody. You know, I just read an article the other night that 45% of all the bagged lettuce that I'm sure we all have in all our refrigerators tests positive for fecal matter.
Wow.
So this is obviously a healthier alternative for everyone.
All right, well, thank you, Dee Dee, for...
Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. June 9th.
Thanks for coming in.
Yes, June 9th. Don't eat bagged lettuce.
Okay, Mr. Miller to discuss Cherry Blossom Park.
Appreciate you getting this going.
Evening.
Good evening.
Besides Mr. Miller, who's our project engineer, we also have Michelle Perry, from beautification and shade tree as well, because they're also part of this project. They're here tonight as well.
Great. Are we ready to go out to bid, Mr. Miller?
We are.
I think where I'd like to start is where we left off at the last meeting.
I didn't attend the last meeting. Maybe you
Okay.
could bring me up to date.
Okay, then I go through some of the points that Councilman Mignon had brought up and go through those, if I may. Okay. One of the first item that I had on my list was an access agreement with the school district. There's been a meeting with the school district and the superintendent relative to the project. They've been kind of involved in this project throughout the course of the term of our involvement.
Right.
So it's in progress at this point, okay? There was a discussion of a 2-foot-high wall and about seeing to the back. In actuality, we haven't even designed that wall. We're thinking that the wall height would probably be at the sitting level height, maybe even 18 inches.
That's the small wall along Bogart Road.
Right, which we've taken off the plans, because we don't want to confuse, there were some, questions about that. So, I went out...
Why was it taken off the plan?
Well, it's a future thing.
Phase 1 and Phase
Okay.
2?
Yes, yes.
It's not in Phase 1.
That's right, not in Phase 1.
All right.
Thank you for clarifying that. But it's not that wall that's going to inhibit seeing back into the park. It's the size of the berm or rise in that area, which is maybe, 36 inches or something. To just make that point. Okay, as far as future things that were on the plans that are not Phase 1, we've taken off instead of just labeling them future. Sometimes we'll put things on a plan, like the wall was on the plan, because we might want to orientate the sign or something. But we can handle that, that's not a problem. So things like the entrance trellis, we've just taken off. Moving on, there was a question about irrigation and the operating cost that was brought up. I don't have a firm number on that, but, it's under $1,000 or something like that. There was some discussion on the existing system that we're going to lose part of that. That system was about a $4,600 item, and I was able to get this still good. Several things that were in that are still going to be maintained, you're not going to lose. There's timers, there's the backflow preventer, There is the hot box and other things. Things like some of the line that goes back there, it's going to be in the mix and of the grading and things, that will be lost. But just to point out, it's not a total loss. We have things like the trash bins and the sign as an alternate. There was some discussion about the outfall. This is basically a very basic system because it's such a small site. It's not a major development, it's a very small site, so we won't have the constraints that we might with some of the other things. And we basically have a trench that's being dug, and we're going to be dumping the water into that. When it gets down the bottom, in the bigger storms, it'll bubble out and go on and out its way as it does now. The landscaping cost, there was some discussion about that, and I talked to the landscape architect between the previous meeting and this meeting. Phase 1 is about $10,000, so we'll limit it to to that cost. And then there was a discussion about talking with the police. The town, Borough did meet with the police chief, and I think the main thing, his point, was some of the lighting and security issues. There's not too much of a security issue back where we have the small trees in the back of the nursery area. But we're going to be putting a few lights in. Hopefully, we'll have the money for that. For that. On the lights, there was some discussion, and I brought up some choices and things. Just last week, the Recreation Commission had looked, and they selected one of these as their preference on the choice. And this is the Lumina series, and it's more of a decorative fixture than some of the industrial type fixtures that they thought were more industrial looking.
Is it LED?
Yeah, LED.
The picture's right there.
And it's also solar.
Do our other parks have lighting?
Yes.
Yeah?
LED lighting?
No, they're PSE&G lights, new to be LED, and there'll be 3 solar lights, full lights.
Yeah. The LEDs...
Basically for the illumination in the evening, it's not for use, it's just for security. And I did cover it with the chief, and he was fine with the locations.
And it's away from any, it's not designed to shine on any residences?
Where they're located, it's not.
No, we're in the middle of the site. There's some light that will get over there, but again, they're relatively small. We're trying to hit minimum foot candle.
Could you check to see if shields are available in case we get complaints and need to shield it from
I will check.
from the
I'll make it
residential
okay.
side?
All right.
They're face down, so it looks like the light is very minimal.
We've had issues like that, so if
In
it
the
has
middle
a
of the
shield that
park?
could be put on afterwards,
I'll
that
check.
would probably solve our
Sure.
problems.
Sure.
All right.
And then the last 2 things that I have is the Public Works, some discussion with them. That was opened up. There's been some discussion, I think, they have issues. It's another park, it's more maintenance, so I think there will be some discussion within the borough about that. And the last thing I had was the alternates. The question was, we listed them separately and have them just separate, and now we have a couple pages of alternates, so it just made it clear for your request. Although for projects under 500,000, I'm not sure the need, but so be it. That's how we did it.
Well, the fact was the law applies to 500,000 and over, not $500,000 and less. With ganging the alternates. The state law about ganging the alternates is for projects over $500,000.
Right.
Not under that we're talking about.
So it's okay. We're covered.
Correct, but no, I was told it was the other way around the last time, so I just wanted to get that. As Alan pointed out also that the bidding law was correct, or my interpretation was correct, that we can have separate alternates for under $500,000.
All right, anything else?
We do have a request from the school board as of today to have a 6-foot fence instead of a 3-foot The existing is 3 foot, 3.5.
3.5?
And we were going to replace it with a 3.5, but today they decided they wanted a 6-foot fence. And so that was one of the things that we requested, and it just came out today.
What does that do to the cost?
Well, we were going with a mini link, 3 foot, 3.5, but now we're going to go with a wider link, and it will bring it up somewhat, but it also will alter the gate. There's a 3 foot, 4 foot gate entrance. They want that lock, which we will lock, but it will bring it up a little bit.
Why do they want to change what's been there for decades and put up a
They're
6-foot
concerned
fence?
about someone coming through the park and jumping over the fence into the school property.
They can
And
do
the
that.
reference was...
Yeah, the fence is hanging over right now. It's not even straight.
There was reference to the gentleman that was loose from Hackensack and the security aspect. That person could come and jump that fence and go down to the property.
Just go
So
around the
therefore,
fence.
Walk around the fence. And if we're talking about the fences, and I know I asked you this probably the other day, and I went out there, there is no existing fence on that south side. There's a very short section of essentially a chicken wire fence along that person's personal property.
Yes.
But there is no, it says here there's a existing wood stockade fence remain that shows it going essentially 3/4 of that south side to the bottom, and it's not there. So anyone coming up Cherry Mews can walk right across the private property and walk right into the park right now.
Well, I think where it says existing,
But there is no fence where it says that there's existing fence.
wood stockade fence to remain. I think where the arrow points is the end of that property owner's stockade fence.
But there is no stockade fence there. There's a little section up the top piece here, and then the fence marking shows go all the way down to connect past where the Chew Farm is. There's nothing on that side. That's all I'm saying. There is no
opening.
There's nothing on that whole side. So that's a concern. And I think the school would have the same concern then, because if that fence is there, no one's going to cut through to go, and you don't need a high fence on the other side, because it would make no sense for somebody to jump 2 fences.
And now the fence is going to be higher, but with bigger openings, so you can put your foot in and climb the fence.
Yeah, many.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not
So many
the...
people
No, I'm just saying.
climbing fences.
If you're worried about safety, but if you're not, then go back to 3 feet.
I don't think
It
that
was a
is security.
request, and they requested it, they said, discuss it if it's possible, but the mini link, you can't really climb on the
That's,
mini link.
it's anti-climbing.
It's
designed
Yeah, when you go
No,
feet,
she was
maybe.
just saying, Bobby, you were saying that the holes, gates have to be bigger now, with the higher
It'll be
foot.
larger.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Standard
So
chain
they
link fence.
can climb on.
That's what I'm saying, so,
Yeah.
right, that was my comment. So, kind of negates the fact of why make a higher fence then. Might as well put a rope there too for the
Do we
person.
have more of an issue with the kids climbing on the fence and a safety issue than one person trying to jump over the fence? You know, if
That's
if
true,
the
too.
small link is anti-climbing, we won't have the kids trying to climb on it as a piece of play equipment.
That's true.
But with the larger one, we could have kids hanging all over that
They
thing,
were
which would
doing
be a
that
safety
Saturday,
issue.
they were climbing on the fence.
So that might be a greater concern than
Yeah.
an adult
Boogeyman.
hopping over the 3-foot fence.
Well, the other thing is the existing fence is
leave a
the
stick
more
there
open
so they can
fencing
just
now,
get
so
over
they're
it.
climbing on it now. They can, because it's falling apart.
Yeah, I
Well-
personally would rather us stay with the shorter, smaller links.
It was requested that we discuss it. I think we can go back. There were 2 out of the 3 people that were at the meeting that didn't really have a big issue of it, just one, and we can go back.
I would agree with Councilman Papaleo that we should stay with a shorter fence, change the links from the big link that's there to the smaller link.
Okay.
But the question is, we're doing this on their property. It's not our fence, and it's not our property. So if the school board wants to put a 6-foot fence on their property, they should go ahead and do that. Or maybe we put our 3-foot fence on our property instead of having it on the school property. Because the question is going to be is when this project is finished, we shouldn't be, and you know, for the future, that fence should be belong to the school again for maintenance and for whatever. We shouldn't, you know, we're not owning this fence forever. It's not ours now, and it shouldn't be ours in the future. It just happens to be on their property. It makes a good point.
The issue is the trees, with the
Oh.
trees up here.
Oh, if we move it on to ours, yeah, that is the issue.
We have trees up front from Bogart coming back on the side of the school property, all the way down where the fence would go on our property.
It just makes it quite a challenge. Yeah, and there's one or two going down the line, too.
Mr. Miller, I did have a meeting with our shade tree
Mhm.
this past week, and we were looking at the plants and the trees, and I don't know if they reached out to you with some suggestions. Did they reach out to you?
Yes.
And there was the question of that big tree and how well it looked,
They're going to look at it tomorrow or in the next few days.
to
Yeah.
see if that's like in good shape.
Right, right, because if it's not, then we'll just take it down. Thank
Okay.
you.
So their recommendations, it's all
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, we talked out in the hallway as well.
Okay. And the south side, does the Phase 1 include a fence all along the south side of the park?
No.
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 There's no fencing except for the private property fencing.
Okay, all right. So it's going to be open then?
Yes.
Yes, all right.
And we're going to maintain that third fence to the tree farm, the third gate on somebody's private property that's there now, which we don't have an easement for. Do we need that third entrance at this point? Or do we
No,
get an
we-
easement from the people since we're traversing their property?
Actually, we have the 10-foot gate on the school property, and that's part of the agreement that was in draft form right now that went to the attorney, and I think...
But I'm talking about the one on the south side.
I know, but we don't need to use that. The
Mhm.
DPW doesn't need to use that gate because they can access from the school property on the 10-foot fence, the gate coming in on the north side. So they will not be using that gate.
So that becomes moot, you're saying?
Yes, it does. It should be locked. It shouldn't be used.
I have the key.
Then we should get permission from the property owner to go over his property.
If need be, but that's why
we...
we went over to the other side, on the north side, with the gate and fencing, so that we could access from the school property, and that's part of the agreement that's being discussed, so that the DPW could come on school property and come from that side.
We're going to speak about the driveway. I do have an issue with the grading on the plan doesn't seem to match. I went out there this afternoon again, and I'm looking at the plan. I mean, you have this sloping driveway to this, the existing gate on the north side of the property. So if I'm looking at the contours, it's about 85 feet at the top of the driveway, and you're about 81 at the bottom. It's like a 4-foot
Yeah,
differential.
it's steep.
That's pretty steep. That's about
Yeah.
16, 18, 20%. That's pretty steep for a driveway.
Yeah, it is.
And the question is, what kind of equipment is DPW bringing down there, and can they navigate that turning radius coming in through that gate, not going over stone dust, and going down that driveway?
Right, sure.
I don't know what kind of equipment they'll be driving back there, if it's going to be a little, whatever, but I think that would be a concern.
They'll manage.
All right?
It's a 16 or 18-foot driveway. It's very steep. I still have an issue. I know you downplayed the stormwater management aspect of this, but right now that site is essentially all grass, so there is no runoff. It was there today. It's kind of mushy because I know there's a lot of mulch and stuff probably underneath the grass, but we're adding a lot of impervious surfaces. We're creating essentially 1, 2, 3, 4 detention ponds that are going to hold
Well,
water.
first of all, they're not detention ponds.
Well-
They're low areas. And where's the impervious?
Your walkway.
Oh, it's somewhat impervious, but it's not like a path or,
But now you're creating basins, so if you have 3 inches of water or 2 inches of rain, it's going to stay in there, and it's not going to drain out as fast as it's going to accumulate.
Maybe so, but there's overflow pipes in every single little one of those.
Yes, so now, and you say you have an outfall structure where all the flow is going to be concentrated at one outfall point. It's not overland flow, it's not diffuse.
Well, it's sewers in the trench. And there isn't a lot of runoff. Remember that this had a parking lot on it, had a building on it, had walkways.
Well, it had a
associated with the
parking lot in
building,
the front.
Had parking,
Had parking in the
parallel
front,
parking coming in
and had a
sideways.
small house in the middle.
Wasn't it more impervious before
No,
than currently?
much more, yeah.
Yeah, if you have a building, a macadam,
That was all on the front of the property,
plus we're
sloping
putting
that way.
trees in that will
Then
take up the
then
water.
Mr. Miller can give me the design
You know?
criteria report that he designed the system for, and we can, I'll be happy with that.
You know,
Just show me
like-
the hydrology and the flow rates and what the outflow is going to be, and I'll be satisfied. That's not reason
More
to go
data.
forward.
Data.
And I think it's going to be an issue with the stone dust wearing away also. the macadam that we're keeping in the front. Why are we keeping that when it's obviously in very poor condition and not even safe to walk on?
It's an entranceway for the DPW to come into the park.
Yeah, it's going to be phase 2.
That's the only pedestrian access from the street also.
That's right, and it's going to be phase 2 replacement. We don't have the funds to do it this time around, so it's going to be, we're going to leave it there until we can replace it in phase 2.
No, I said, I was out there again today. I don't think it's safe for people to walk on because it's uneven, it's got ponding puddles, and it's heaved, so that's something I think that, as the borough, I think we need to be, that should be more of a priority and make sure that it's a safe, even if it's just a matter of leveling it out. It may not be removed, but it certainly has to be addressed. One thing that showed up today, which wasn't in the previous plan, was now you're proposing creating a new handicap parking space in the front. Where was that going, and why was that?
We had that as an alternate, actually, in the front, which if we can have, if the monies are there, that we'd put that into this phase. Not go into phase.
But I understand, were you talking about constructing one inside the curb and moving the curb in? Or
No, just on the roadway, just as people park there now, every day.
Well, I would think the schools would like to know whether we're taking away a street parking space.
One space?
Well, if you've been
For
there during the day, you would see,
They
yes.
probably wouldn't, you think the school would object to providing a handicap
If you-
spot?
If you're taking away an on-street parking space in front of Cherry Hill School, yes, I think they might have a concern.
I don't think one handicap spot. I mean, it seems like we're all working together. The people that are at the school live in our community, that benefit from this, so we're all working with this together. So it's not an us versus them.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you're taking away an existing on-street parking space that wasn't on the original plan. It just showed up on the revision that we got on Friday. So I'm asking why it's there now. That's all I'm
Yes, you
asking.
have to provide for handicap.
No, you don't have to provide for handicap.
Well, I think it's a good policy.
There's no parking here. You don't need to provide a separate space for that.
It's really not relevant at this point to go out to bid because designating a handicap parking spot on a municipal street is something that the council has done in the
Right.
past, and it'll do it again if it's necessary.
With a resolution.
And it's not a resolution.
Or
It
ordinance.
requires us to amend our parking ordinance.
But it was shown as a construction item with a cost associated with it, and that's why I'm asking. So if it's dedicating a space on the street, there should be zero cost associated. It shouldn't show up as an alternate.
Well, you have to get from the space into the park, so you would have to have.
Well, there's already a curb ramp at the bottom where
Yeah,
this
yeah, curb ramp,
asphalt area is, so
concrete, yeah.
that's already there. So
It's only an alternate, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
But my question was why it was put in now. That was all I asked.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
We are looking to go out to bid on this as soon as we can.
Is there a resolution on the agenda?
No, not tonight, but it's a motion that we'll put it on to May 4th.
I'll make a motion to put this on the agenda as a resolution to go out to bid.
I'll second.
All right. We've had lots of discussion. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Councilman Powell?
Yes.
Councilman Boucher?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
No, I still think there needs to be revisions, and we have not received a cost estimate, and we don't know what the operating maintenance costs are going to be for the park. So until we know that information, I don't think we should go out to bid.
Councilman Papalaro?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Costa.
Mayor, council, good evening. I do not know if I can compete with the bag salad, that's all I can say tonight.
You learn something new every day.
We do.
Give me that extra.
Did you already have your dinner?
I did.
Was it a bag salad?
No, it was not. No.
Are these two things here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Alan?
Mayor, we had received a grant from Community Development Block Grant last year for approximately $90,000. In addition, council has approved some funding to do some sidewalk improvements on public sidewalks around town. And we have an interest in making the bathrooms in Memorial Park and the pavilion area barrier-free.
Correct.
So with that, Mr. Costa, I believe, has prepared plans and specifications for your review. If approved tonight, we would move them to Community Development Block Grant so they could do their analysis and environmental review prior to going out to bid.
All right.
Rob, do you want to talk a little bit about the
Basically,
looking at?
that sums it up. We met with, obviously, Bobby McDonald to go over the park area around the pavilion and where the bathrooms are. Where the concrete, there's no ramping there, so it's not ADA compliant going into the bathrooms. We came up with a plan to fix that. We met with John Lynch for the sidewalks that are in the Paper Street along Oak Avenue, going through at the south end of town. Came up with all of the concrete that John wanted replaced there. And the ramps, the handicap ramps at the south end, I think there was a little more than 16 ramps to replace all of those under the new standards. We are finished with the plans, the specs, ready to go out to bid. I can hand one copy out. I could have brought all the copies.
No, it's saving money, which is good.
Well, you know what, just in case there's any changes, I can give them to you, Alan. I can email them. I can certainly
Give this
PDF all
Stephanie.
this tomorrow morning to everybody on the council. And that's it. If you say yes, we'll put it in the newspaper and go build it.
All right, any questions for Mr. Costa?
Alan, the only question I have on that grant, because I believe this amount of work is going to be more than $90,000. So should we do it as an alternate one, alternate two, the ramps as a base, and the other work is alternate one or two, just in case it exceeds that amount?
Yeah, well, we have funding for the other work, but that's not a bad idea, because we don't know whether the other work will put us over.
Right, just in case.
the
This
other
way, at least you get, if it does, at least community development funds will be used, and then...
Right, we have to use those up first,
Right.
yeah.
All right, Alan, what do you need from the council on this?
Your approval, we'll eventually ask you to sign off on the plans. We'll only put the resolution on after Community Development Block Grant has the opportunity to review everything.
They're going to have to review, and then obviously, I believe we got to set up, if I'm not mistaken, I've done this a couple of times, I think you have to set up a meeting prior to bid.
Yeah, there's a pre-construction meeting down at the county, so they can go over prevailing wages and things like that.
Right.
So we'll have to review them internally, see if it has all of the block grant requirements in it.
So we just got notice that we were approved for some community block development money.
Jim County.
When will we be getting that?
Usually it takes about 6-7 months before the agreements are finalized, and we have to amend our budget.
They might let you use it on this stuff. They
That's what
might.
I was thinking.
I'm always optimistic.
Is that a possibility?
I don't think the timing
But
is
the
right.
freeholders have
We have
to
a certain
approve
amount of
it.
time to get this done, and
It's worth a phone call.
we have to wait for the contracts to come in. We don't have a contract with block grant. We have an announcement.
Right.
That's what we have tonight, which is great. But we don't have a contract.
How long
We
does it
haven't
take to
amended
get
our
the
budget.
contract?
The budget has to get into the grant fund. There's technicalities and steps we have
It's
to
not,
take with
it's
these
called
things.
bureaucracy, it's not
Yes,
technicality.
I'm sorry, we move as fast as we can, but
You know,
I'm as frustrated as
paperwork.
everybody else.
No, I understand. I'm saying, but...
We have the same problem with the DOT, Section 2, that you're going to talk about in a minute, and why it can't be done with Section 1. And now, so...
Correct.
This is so crazy.
It's a good thought, but it just doesn't work out that way.
So-
But I mean, a few phone calls won't, like, get
Ellen.
this...
Thank you. Having said all that, what's the expected time to get the project started? When you first spoke, it sounded like you'd put a shovel in the ground next week. Now, can we get a sense
No,
of
no, no.
when?
If the council says, okay, as soon as I can get it in the newspaper, which could probably be...
Excuse me, Rob, excuse me.
Go ahead.
We have to deal with the Community Development Block Grant people. They have to do an environmental review of your plans and specifications. So that we don't know how long it's going to take them to do that.
Hand delivered tomorrow morning. My office is a few blocks away.
I
So
understand that,
I will
but you
call them,
can't speak
hand
for
it to them.
the
No,
county
but
people.
I understand that, but I will certainly...
Thank you.
I can hand deliver it to them tomorrow morning.
The
Thank you.
expectation this project's completed this year.
But what I'm saying, yes.
Let's-
yes.
Okay, all right, so then, wait.
Yes.
Okay, that's the answer I
If
was
we don't
looking
look
for.
at that right now,
So are
can
you-
we tell you in an hour?
Are you making a motion to approve this plans?
I'm making a motion for that to be passed around to us right now, so we can look at it and then let him know.
All right. Do we have to look at it?
Well, it's there, I mean, we should put our eyes to it, and then,
Eventually, we're all gonna have to sign it.
right. I mean,
So-
do we really...
There's no reason for us to do that now, because the county has to review it first.
Right, the county...
Right, so make a motion
All I need is
to...
Step at a time.
Just, yeah, I can certainly take it to the county tomorrow morning. No, you don't...
Do you have Davis-Bacon requirements in the specification, Mr. Costa? Yes or no?
Alan, I don't know if that's in there.
Well, thank you. That's why I would like the opportunity to review it and see if it
Okay.
meets their standards.
But Alan, that's a very simple requirement, okay? We've done it a lot of times. I have it in my office. If it's not attached to this set, I can certainly do it
Don't
first thing in the
commit to
morning.
dropping it off tomorrow morning
But
if it's
quite
not complete.
frankly, in minutes, I can put that together in the morning. All of that stuff is in my office, and this is not my first rodeo. I can take that document tomorrow to the county.
I make a
And
motion...
I'm certainly they will meet with me tomorrow to hand deliver to say, we'd like to fast track this and get it done.
I make a motion for you to put in the extra Davis thing or whatever that's required, and then to hand deliver to the county tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
All right, there's a motion. There's progress.
I'll second.
We have a second. Let's have a roll. Any further discussion? Let's have a roll call.
There's no need. I mean, why we...
Because we don't, all this whole, like, delay.
There's no delay. He's got to submit a complete package to the, so he can bring it tomorrow. If it's not complete, it doesn't matter what we say tonight. He's got to...
He's been doing a lot of, he knows what needs to be...
So he doesn't need us to tell him that. He knows what he has to submit
No,
to the county
I
before.
understand, and I apologize.
We can't go to bid,
It's
so
a motion and a
what are we
second.
voting on?
We had
I don't understand what we're
discussion,
voting on.
just to submit the plan, that's all. Let's have a vote. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Paul?
No.
Councilman...
I know.
Yes.
No, I don't even know what we're...
Councilman Papalario?
Yes.
And I vote yes. And we've moved the ball forward. Okay, Fifth Avenue Road Improvement, Section 2. You're going to talk about that next.
Fifth Avenue, Section 2 has gone down to the DOT, to Mr. Lovelace's office.
For the benefit of the public, Fifth Avenue, Section 2 was a $150,000 grant for the DOT.
Roughly, I think it was 149 or 146.
Curbing and paving.
Curbing, paving, similar to the Phase 1, which was from Howland, roughly 400 feet to the north of Howland Avenue on Fifth.
All right, so where is this going to take us?
From where it ended, just past the intersection of Wayne and Fifth Avenue. We have authorization to go out to bid from Mr. Lovelace, about
Okay.
400 feet,
Right.
roughly. We have authorization from Mr. Lovelace's office. We sent him an original set of plans, came back with comments, we addressed the comments, we went back to him, and we have, again, authorization to go to bid at this point.
All right.
What's the status with the reimbursements and the issue that we were having with the state having money to reimburse us?
I don't get involved with that. I don't know when the checks come in or don't come in.
Was there an issue with them
I
saying
don't think
that...
we'll have an issue with the grants that they've approved, they've awarded to us.
So they'll give us the 75%? You'll submit for the 75%?
As soon as we award the...
Yeah, Alan,
Yes.
I don't get really involved with that. Alan does. When it comes to money, I never question Alan because he's usually
Did you want
on
to
top of
talk
that.
about the striping?
The only thing with that, and again, the striping, I know the striping is a concern, what's out there today. The question becomes,
I love the striping. I love the striping plan.
okay,
You want to change it?
The striping doesn't conform to any standard.
the striping that's shown out there is on this plan. I don't know if everybody has a set. If not, I'll give you this set, the set of specs. I'll send PDFs tomorrow morning to everybody. But I believe it's the same shallows in the lanes with not as many white lines as you see out there today. So I'm not sure.
Right now, the shower is outside of the lane?
No. The shallows are where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
You have a parking lane, and you have where you share the roadway.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
going to be, it would be the same with the shallows. Shallows and the arrows, exactly the way you see it today.
But I've not seen that kind of white lane marking a parking lane with the sharrows anywhere. I don't know what standard that conforms to. It's confusing. It looks like a bike lane. It's not striped like a bike lane, but people think it is. People are afraid or don't know whether they should park in it or not, And the crazy box at the end at Howland creates problems, because people don't know whether they're supposed to make that right or they're supposed to stay over. It's just not, it's not clear.
Cause more problems than what you're trying to help.
It doesn't conform to MUTCD or any striping plan I've seen for bike lanes or sharrows, so
It's not a bike lane. It's a parking lane.
It's share the road.
yes, with the sharrows, we're
I know what
supposed to
the
have.
sharrow means.
Right.
And then there's the parking lane.
Correct.
That has a solid stripe.
Which doesn't conform to any of the standards.
What you would have to do is put additional lines in, which we stopped, because, again, you would have to have lines going perpendicular to the curb at the driveways.
But there was no need to have it at all.
But then you would have, but it was on the original plan, it was signed off by everybody.
Yes.
If you do that, there'd be more lines, and it was, apparently, there were a lot of issues with more lines down there.
Yeah, we don't want more lines.
So we don't want more lines, and this is what you have. If
Okay.
you want me to grind it, get rid of it, don't do it, that's all I
I think
need
it should
to
be
do.
removed unless you can show me that it conforms to a standard, that's all.
The sharrows do conform.
Because the sharrow, I'm not saying the sharrow, I'm saying the
absolutely
white
conform
line next to the
standard.
sharrow like that does not match any striping plan that I've seen.
It does, but again, you would have to have the perpendicular lines going back to the curb, which we stopped because we didn't want any more lines down there.
Oh, yeah, then there would be lots of
There would be lots of lines.
demarcating
Well,
everybody's driveway.
I've gotten numerous complaints about it, and the people will come and we'll talk about it, and then we'll go from there. But the corner still doesn't make sense with the yellow line, the yellow box over the, I mean,
Well, the
that's...
corner is so you don't, obviously you don't park.
No, it's because he striped it wrong the first time, and then he went over and put yellow on it. That's what
Well,
he did.
well, it's
Come on, you can see it.
It's actually a stop, no, there's a stop sign there, and you can't park within 50 feet of a stop sign.
Yes, but he striped it as a parking lot.
He striped it incorrectly. So the question
Exactly,
becomes, do you
yes.
grind out a brand-new roadway, because this gentleman striped it incorrectly? So do you destroy a street, or do you put down
But it
a
was
yellow
done-
line
it's
to
done-
demarcate, don't park there?
But it's
because you
done
can't park
wrong.
there
It was
anyway.
done wrong.
Can you paint it black?
It's done wrong. It's the same thing we have at Continental. We've mentioned several times. Traffic safety's mentioned it. The lines are wrong, and someone's got to take responsibility and fix them.
Okay, the lines are wrong. The contractor went out there unbeknownst
I'm not...
to anyone, went there on a Saturday, did the work, didn't get authorization to do it, and quite frankly, Alan and I, and probably Tom, is going to have to get involved in order to have the contractor accept the responsibility. Otherwise, you're going to have to hire another contractor, and this gentleman will start suit or go after a bonding company. There's only so much I can
I'm not
do.
saying you would have to do it. I'm not saying, but it's, when things are incorrect, they should be fixed, and not just to say, oh, they came on set, whatever. It's got to be addressed. The striping on Fifth Avenue, it's confusing. It doesn't look like anything anyone's seen anywhere. So it's, and to perpetuate that further northbound, it's going to look crazy.
Like, you shouldn't fix a mistake with another mistake and then say, look, this is on purpose.
Well put.
What do you talk...
Well, if he made a
Stop
yellow
sign.
half of a box, and then all of a sudden it's like he realizes a mistake, and then he paints the rest of the box, he goes, look, it's a park, and you can't park there. We don't have any yellow boxes anywhere else, anywhere, but, this will be the first one saying it's a no parking by the stop sign. I mean, the guy's got to go back there and just figure it out.
It's certainly, the job isn't signed off yet. If it doesn't meet to the expectation, it's an issue, then they're going to have to go back in, mill it, remove it, repave it, and
I
then
mean, he
stripe
wouldn't be
it.
the first person to ever make a mistake painting anything. There's no liquid that they can scrub it out.
No,
No, there is
There's no
not.
black paint they roll on it.
The only way to get, because we're using
You could, but-
thermoplastic, because it lasts a lot longer, the only way to get this out
Uh-huh.
is to actually grind it.
Uh-huh.
So you have to grind it out, and what that does is creates
Yeah.
a ground-up surface of the brand-new roadway. And the only way to fix that is to then, you would have to mill the whole thing and then try to
This
patch it in.
painting guy, is he out of business now?
No, statewide.
Still, they're major companies, so they shouldn't be making
Major
mistakes
companies.
like this.
I mean, that's ridiculous. That now our road is compromised because the guy doesn't know how to
Well,
paint
again,
an arrow or a box?
It's
or-
not signed off, and
This road's got to last us a long time.
Ellen?
Thank you. I want to thank Councilman Mignon for bringing up Continental and the mistake that was made with the double line. You've said it was a mistake. Traffic and Safety has asked that that be corrected. So what steps are going to be taken, whether it's you, Alan, Tom, whoever, to get them out here and correct it? Okay, so what and when is that going to, those actions going to be taken to correct that? Because we have, the ambulance corps has testified to Traffic and Safety. We have a police representative on there. It's a safety issue that striping is. So I'd like to know when steps are going to be taken to have that corrected.
Rob, you need to send a letter to
I'll send a letter to the
describing what needs to be done. That's the first step.
They're all paid, so. Yeah, but this road's got to be put back to the exact condition that it was prior.
None of it was the microsurfacing, so they would have to, again, you would grind out the stripe, restripe it, and then they would have to touch up with their microsurfacing.
Hopefully that wouldn't compromise the, integrity of the road for years to come.
That one I don't think so.
They just put the center line too far north?
Yes.
Is that what they did?
Yes. This is the same guy that made the yellow box?
I tell you the truth, I don't know who striped it, because nobody was ever notified. Even the police, I don't think, were notified.
I think they should have to come into the police station and take a picture before they go out and strike
I would
anything.
respectfully submit, Rob, that then you need next time in the spec to be clear that they can't stripe until you lay out or you approve where they're going to lay it out. Because if they're doing, this is two situations where, and I know where you guys were, I'm not blaming you because I've had it happen, I understand.
You're in this.
Exactly, so I'm not saying that. But I said, but you need to have some kind of trigger in the contract there and say that they either have to, mark it out first before you come out, before they can do it or whatever, but we need some kind of midpoint here now to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So it's a matter of their scheduling and keeping you in the loop because, like I said, it's easy to prevent it and it's hard to, it's just,
Is that what you're saying, you want a more defined
well,
process?
basically, like the Rock River line is, you cannot stripe it until, the location is approved by the borough engineer. Simple as that.
I don't have
So
those
they can't
specs in
go
front
out.
of me. I actually think there is something on the plans and the specs to that effect.
Well, they make
When
them
it's
do
a smaller job, I think they just hit and miss, because they figure they can, if they're finished with something else, then they might say, okay, go over here because you can do this in 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, but now they've created such a big problem.
And they do it,
out of a simple
they do a
job.
good job, they just did it wrong. I mean, they put the stripes are nice, they're well laid down, but, they just
I
can't.
know I don't want to send you off with the Sharrows, but even the Sharrows, when they were doing the Sharrows, they didn't have the whole puzzle for the Sharrows to do it. So they laid out half the bicycle. That was another day. I said, what are you doing?
Is that like a spin bike from a exercise place?
Every day is a new day.
First they had the Vs without any bicycles.
Correct, because they didn't have the right bicycle.
Looked like a runway.
They had a unicycle.
It was striped like a runway.
It's
Yeah.
just...
That's really terrible. Whoever these people are, I mean, they really should not be allowed to do this until, it's like a surgeon, like, are you going to cut this leg off and you check it twice? It's the right thing?
Right.
Apparently, they need this kind of direction, that they can't be left to their own devices to do the job correctly.
Right, so Mr. Costa, you'll write a letter, and you'll write that.
Tomorrow morning, if you want it from me, that's easy. I think
You're
we
the
probably
engineer,
need-
you know the details of what should be done, what's wrong with it, what should be done.
Okay.
Copy Tom and myself on it, and that's their first notice, If we get to a second notice, Tom will follow up
After
with the
you
letter from the
hand-deliver that
attorney.
other thing, you just take care of that?
I'll take care of this.
All right, are there any other issues with our borough engineer? How are we doing on the Midland Avenue sidewalks?
Midland Avenue sidewalk, I should be ready to go out to bid as soon as you guys tell me. I would say within 2 weeks, our plans and specs will be ready. I'd like to construct that. We met with the business administrator for the schools. The minute school closes, right after that, because I do not want to impact schools, especially on this project.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, Alan, what do we have to do to go out to bid on that?
We have an ordinance on for first reading tonight. The ordinance has to be adopted so that we would have a funding source to make an award.
Very good.
But it's been designed, right? Has it been designed?
Field work is done, the plans are being done right now.
Because I thought we have a proposal on tonight for design and inspection. Is that something different?
No.
No, it's not different, or no, it's...
That's the contract to do
Okay.
this work. There was, I think, there might have been a smaller contract.
I thought there was. Just for clarity, that number that was given to you was not from me.
No, I made that
we're
clear.
doing
That
different
was from
things.
the
We're talking about
consultant.
No, I said there was a number for, I don't know how much.
That's a different grant. I'm
All right,
talking about,
does that
this is the DOT, the 149 or whatever we got,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
That's what this is.
No, we're talking about the Midland.
Yes,
So
but-
we're talking about the 49,000 that I had proposed the last time, which is now 30,000. That's on for tonight.
Yeah, that's number 8 on the work session consent agenda.
Yes, but like I said, but there's overlap between the grant we got for DOT that Mr. Costa's talking about, and the $300,000 grant that we got from DOT for Safe Routes to School.
Right.
No, that's...
No, but what I'm saying, but there's overlap in the scope, because their grant application includes what you're doing over here.
I'll speak to Mr. Costa about that when he makes a proposal to do the work on Kennecott.
No, from my understanding...
It does. Get the application. It shows it on the application. It shows the whole thing. And that's what I said, there's an
Yeah,
overlap.
I didn't...
I know you didn't do that, but
Yeah, I
it's
didn't do it, but
included.
from my understanding, that money is for Kennecott Road, the sidewalks on
But they
Kennecott.
show those lengths of sidewalk on their map in the application.
Okay, that, I don't, again, I didn't have anything to do with it.
I brought the dollars in, and I said, so I want to be careful that there's no...
All I know is there's $149,000 for us to do sidewalks in front of the school on Midland Avenue, and the sidewalk on Woodland Avenue,
Yes.
and crosswalks and handicap ramps there, and and to build some retaining walls. That we met with the property owners a month ago, Alan, to go over what impact they would have on their projects. I think we got to take out, I don't want to say it too loud, I know Liz is in the back, we might be taking out a tree, and then we would have to obviously put a tree back.
All right, okay, thank you.
Mayor,
So do we need a motion for anything, or are we good?
I think I know what I'm doing.
It's on the consent agenda.
Just want to make sure.
I think so. One other bit of good news. Today I received a letter that you have another $149,000 from the state on Fifth Avenue.
I was going to,
I stole your thunder.
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to bring up the whole Shara thing again. So I was going to wait until
Okay.
with my mayor's comments.
All right, I apologize.
So we're actually at section 3 now of Midland Avenue, so that it'll get done.
Wow.
But that won't be till next year, then.
Unless you have something designed that we could just say yes.
So we're going to have to leave out that third section.
I probably have the field work, the base mapping. I'm pretty sure we went a little bit further. I don't know if I went that much further. I think we did to move everything up to try to get us in motion with Rich Lovelace, so that could be done now. The only thing is, we put in the rest of the paving under the repaving program.
That's what I'm saying. So
So
now
if I
you're
have to
going to have to leave a
I
whole...
would cut that
Well, it's
short.
we're only going to be able to pay 400 feet anyway with the grant. So you have to subtract that
Cut short by 400 feet.
Now you have to subtract that 400 feet up, but that's not going to be done until next year now. Because we're not going to get this grant with the paving
No,
program.
this
So
would be-
it's going to be next year.
this would be next year.
spring. So we're going to have that middle 400 feet that won't be done.
These are good things, though. These aren't bad things.
I know.
They gave you
It's
the
good to
money.
get money.
It's good.
It's good to get money.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, Rob.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, Rob.
Okay, Chief Caridi is no longer with us, so we're going to scratch
Do you want me to call up the
the
chief?
promotional process.
Yes, please, I'd like to have him resolve what we need for the lieutenant's promotion process tonight.
We can discuss the changes to the ordinance for the creation and establishment of the senior citizens of River Edge. I believe this is requested by Ellen and Mr. Capola.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilman Capola and I recommend that an amendment be made to Ordinance 1824, which created and established Senior Citizens of River Edge organization. The amendments are two, and Tom Sarlo, correct me if I have the intent wrong, but would be to establish that members of SCORE must be residents of River Edge, 60 years and older. Non-residents may participate in SCORE-related activities with a nominal fee established by the members of SCORE, and that members of SCORE may only be officer holders of SCORE. Those are the two amendments that Councilman Coppola and I recommend. We make this recommendation based on many conversations with River Edge residents who participate in SCORE currently.
Members of SCORE are the only ones that can vote for
Correct.
officer.
That's implicit in those
Yes,
two
yes,
amendments,
yes.
correct. In speaking with the borough attorney, our understanding is that this can go on for first reading, correct, without notice.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave that to you guys. That's your protocol.
Chief is on his way.
When did this make it to the agenda?
I
Exact
requested it
language?
on Friday,
discussion.
and Tom circulated it this afternoon.
Well, your ordinance says that you can be a member.
We're not open to the public yet, but we're going to.
That's what you want.
You were included on my notification
Yeah, I
on
did.
Friday.
I'm just
We're just finishing up
questioning
the
whether we can
conversation.
put it, I know it's here. I know that we can discuss it. We can say that we're good with the language, and we can request that it be put on for
Fine.
a first reading
That would-
tonight. I don't think we can vote on first reading
Correct,
tonight.
correct.
But if everybody's seen this, anybody have any issues with the exact language? Kathleen?
I just know that Ms. Berman did speak before
Yep.
regarding the membership aspect of it. So if we're going to open it to the public, maybe she would like to speak about it again.
Well, there's going to be a public hearing
Mhm.
on it when it would be appropriate to speak.
Mhm.
And there are no records, there are no membership rolls. It just makes it very difficult to grandfather in whoever's there. I think you're creating an organization right now, you're recognizing this organization, you're establishing it, and now you're setting forth who can be members and so forth. So it's kind of hard to grandfather in somebody into an organization that in reality really did not exist. So I would not recommend that to grandfather in out-of-town residents at this point.
And I would just like to say, the way that Mr. Sarlo has drafted this, there is non-residents are allowed to participate in SCORE-related activities, so that's not being taken away
And I think
with
that's
these amendments.
I think that's important because you do receive county funding, and it should be opened up to the residents of the county, and this will allow that. There's no that they need to be members. So they'll share in every benefit that a member does, but they just won't be able to hold office or vote for elected office. That's all.
They can continue to volunteer in capacities of activities and what have you. That
Serve
doesn't
on
change that.
committees and so forth.
And that also can be amended, because, my understanding is, and I spoke about this before, this is not the Ten Commandments chiseled into granite or rock. I mean, a lot of the members are worried about, once this is set, it's set for life, nothing can be changed. I mean, that's not true. It can be changed with their input.
Your ordinance can only be changed by the mayor and council, but your ordinance is bare bones as to just setting forth the membership requirements. Now, going forward as to, again, how SCORE is run, that's going to be through the bylaws.
Right. From SCORE, okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that we put this on for first reading. Is that what you were looking for, correct?
Just have
Yeah,
one more
second.
question.
There's a second.
One more
Wait a minute,
question.
there's a motion and a second, now we can have discussion.
Just the language, it says that in order to be a member of SCORE, you have to be a resident. Is that part of the
No.
language?
In order to join SCORE, eligibility shall consist only of River Edge residents who are a minimum of 60 years of age.
Okay. So, but really, it should be that anyone can join, but you just don't have voting rights or officer.
Well, the next sentence is residents of Bergen County who are a minimum of 60 years of age may participate in SCORE-related activities upon the payment of an activity fee that shall be annually fixed by SCORE. And again, they may waive the fee. The next section is the election of officers. Again, that goes on to say members of SCORE shall elect from its membership president. A member must be a River Edge resident to hold elected office. Only River Edge members in good standing. It's a little redundant, but I wanted to make sure it gets the message across so there is no room for
Ambiguity.
interpretation. Yeah, so maybe it's a little redundant, but it's on purpose, it's redundant.
So as of today, we've created SCORE, there's an ordinance that has been adopted and signed, and has there been an election yet?
No.
No. Okay.
We did have an election on Monday.
No, you had,
was-
there was an adoption of
there wasn't an
bylaws, there was
election.
no election of officers.
And Mayor, the initial, it said that you have to have it, but again, there's no membership role, so according to the bylaws, if you are a member by June, then you can participate in the election. So my advice was to set your membership roles by June, and then hold your elections going forward. So we can't hold elections without, obviously now, they can put a membership going forward, have an actual membership role.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, let's take a vote to put this on for first reading.
Councilman...
Yes.
Councilman Capolo?
Yes.
Councilman Batiste?
Yes.
Councilman Young?
Yes.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
All right, what we're going to do is we're going to put this on for first reading, then we're going to publish it in the newspaper to amend the ordinance, then we're going to have a public hearing at which anybody can come and be heard or make a comment. In addition, later on this evening, when we open to the public, if you want to speak about it then, you're more than welcome to. The next order of business is we have the police chief back to speak about the promotional process for lieutenant.
You're on.
You're on.
Okay, we presently have a vacancy in the lieutenant's position within the command staff of the River Edge Police Department. And at present, as has been done with acting sergeant's position, there's a temporary filling of that position that's underway at present. But in order to have a permanency, there needs to be a finalization of a promotional process. The council has some leeway in what segments from the ordinance they wish to include in the process, so I'm here to discuss that with you tonight, and some type of a timetable for moving forward.
All right. Any questions for the chief?
Chief, what are your recommendations?
The ordinance provides for a couple of different factors. One involves a document review, departmental evaluation, sergeant's testing, provides for psychological. At a minimum, I would want to see the document review, interview with the mayor and council, evaluation from the police department, and the council's left to decide regarding, there's written testing that's available through the State Chiefs Association, which we also did in the sergeant's testing, and then the psychological component. So my recommendation would be, at the very least, those four factors.
Three. Document review, department
Document
evaluation,
review,
and
departmental evaluation, interview with the mayor and council, and testing from the State Chiefs Association.
So there's 5 parts, and you're recommending 4 of the 5, and the one that you're leaving up
To the council, which had been, a matter of some
debate. This is
extended debate. The
psychological.
last time was the psychological, so I'd like to get that out of the way in one session this time, so it's put to rest one way or another, and then move forward with the other segments.
And the written test is something we implemented after the last round, is that correct? Was it the written test?
I'm sorry?
The written test part, was that when we amended the ordinance a couple of years ago, was for...
Written testing had always been in there as a
We did that for the sergeants then, because that's where it was missing? There was something we amended our...
what was amended in the ordinance
It's more
had,
objective.
Yes.
yeah, it had to do with words objective and subjective, how they were used in the ordinance. It allowed the council to take into consideration subjective as well as objective criteria. Prior to that, some problems with the ordinance that had gone through litigation challenged whether segments of the ordinance, segments of the testing process under the ordinance were truly objective, as the ordinance stated. It forced at one time the council to go back and eliminate one phase of the testing because of the subjectivity, and to make a decision based on other factors. So the ordinance was rewritten, and it allowed for that subjective components. Something like a written test would certainly be an objective score in and of itself. Something like a departmental evaluation certainly would have subjective components to it, as all supervisory evaluations do. So,
And who's eligible to?
anyone who's, at this point in time, anyone who's held the rank of sergeant for more than 1 year. So that would be Sergeant Wilhelm, Sergeant Napperstack, and Sergeant Cheevers.
It doesn't include anybody who's in an acting capacity previous to that?
No. And there hasn't been anybody in an acting capacity. Right now, Sergeant Napperstack is in an acting capacity, but that's just since the ratification of the recent sergeant's test.
So the question, it appears, is do we want the psychological, and are we willing to accept the other 4 parts? I think we should accept the other 4 parts, and we need to decide psychological. That way we can give you direction.
Correct.
I would recommend that we not do the psychological only because it was too controversial. I would make a motion that or resolution, or however Alan feels we should word it, that the chief move forward with all but the psychological as components for the lieutenants.
I'd second that.
Can you just state them again? Testing?
There's a written test that's offered by the State
Uh-huh.
Chiefs Association that we utilize the same as for the sergeant's test.
Right.
There's a document review
Uh-huh.
where the council reviews personnel files as well as IA histories, et cetera, having to do with each of the candidates. Then there's a departmental evaluation that involves evaluations from, much as we did with the sergeants, there's a peer review element to it as well as supervisory review. And the last element would be the interview with the mayor and council. And as far as that goes, the mayor and council can choose, what they want from the candidates, if they want to see a resume from each of the candidates as part of the oral interview and what that would entail.
I think that's acceptable. You made the motion to...
Yes, and I'll amend it that it includes a resume, because I think we all pretty much want that.
One question about departmental review. Is it, when you get higher up on the ranks, there's less people above who can do evaluation. Who's involved? Would it be you and Lieutenant Walker, or is it you
Yes.
and you have that would just be it?
Yeah.
I would find that satisfactory.
Yeah.
So as I said, the 4 parts, not the psychological, with a resume is the motion.
Second.
Could I get also some direction, just so I can put this out to the...
Hasn't been to a vote yet. No, we have to put on for a formal, whatever we decide.
Right, but I was just...
Discussion, we're going to put on for a formal resolution.
Right, I guess we just go to the resume portion of it, if you wanted to limit it to a certain amount of scope. You get somebody coming as far as, bringing in PowerPoint presentations and 3-ring binders full of, pictures and all kinds of things. You could have somebody that puts together a 2 to 4 page, resume, something for the council to consider. So, I mean, it's something if you want to make that uniformed. It's just a suggestion I have to
We
make that a
didn't
little
give this
easier.
direction to the sergeants when they brought in their resumes.
Right.
They just brought them in as they saw fit.
Yeah, that's true. And
Why would we hamper what they wish to present?
I would also think that...
It's not so a question of hampering, just so that the council has adequate opportunity to review similar documentation that's being presented. So if you had a resume and there was a guideline to it, essentially with the sergeant's resumes, they were all very similar in nature.
But we gave them no direction of what to
You didn't
put in there.
At that point in time. I'm just putting it on the table for something to consider for the council so that they have something in equal consideration for the candidates as they're moving forward.
I personally don't see the need for that. I don't know if anybody else does. Tom, do you want to comment on that? Should we?
I don't really have a comment on it. I don't think it's necessary either way.
It's
your preference.
I think the way they want to craft their resume is up to them.
It's fine.
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a motion and a second?
Yes. Yes.
To begin the process, we'll put it on for a formal resolution.
Yep.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Coppola?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dees?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes. All right, it'll be on the May meeting. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief. Okay. With the work session consent agenda, does anybody want to discuss anything with the work session consent agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes.
Number 9, on the agenda, it talks, this is from Bridget Bogart, and it says, professional services related to assessing the question of redevelopment or rehabilitation. Unless there was a revised proposal, that's not the proposal we had gotten. Her proposal was to do an investigation whether the area is in need of redevelopment, and if so, then she would prepare a redevelopment plan. So those are two different things. So I don't know what's most current.
I drafted the consent agenda description based on what I thought the question was from the council.
That wasn't what her, because unless there was a more recent proposal, I mean, I'm looking at the one from March 19th, and she breaks it into 2 parts. The first part was about professional planner shall prepare, undertake an investigation to determine if the block meets criteria to establish an area of redevelopment. And then letter C, if the area is designated, the professional planner will prepare a redevelopment plan. So that's the way I read it, and that's different than deciding whether it's rehabilitation versus redevelopment.
Okay, so you want to...
And second part...
You just want to amend.
And also, I don't think if you adopt the whole proposal, you're already under a presumption that she's going to find the area in need of redevelopment. Because there should be the potential that she may come back and say it doesn't meet the criteria, and you wouldn't have to do a redevelopment plan. She broke a proposal into two parts. I would think that it would be proper to let her go through her redevelopment study first, and then if that's what's determined, then she can come back and you can amend her contract to do a redevelopment plan. But I don't think putting them together makes sense.
What language do you want?
That's why it's broken out into...
That's what she broke.
Proposal is broken out.
Yes, she broke her proposal. So her proposal is to do the area of redevelopment, and that's what her proposal is written. So we either break it into the 2 tasks and just approve her to do the study part, and then, depending on her findings, come back and do a redevelopment plan, or you leave it the way it is and just have her approve for both parts. But the language in this is not correct. That's all I'm saying.
So my question was, what language do you want?
Well, I said it was me, and I don't know if I'm going to vote for this anyway, but I would say that you would approve the study of the area first. That was $1,800, I believe.
Yes.
Right? And then, if her findings support the conclusion that there's a redevelopment area, then it can be amended to do the redevelopment plan.
That sounds satisfactory.
That's the way I would...
So you're making a motion to amend it for that language?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
So you want to pull out number 9, Ed, for a separate vote?
No, it's just...
Well, I will when we get to the consent agenda. We've got to go back to the
So do we
regular...
need a motion, Mayor?
That's a great amendment. So advise her.
Okay, we're up to a user-friendly budget. This is a new requirement now from the DCA to after we get done with all of the council's hard work on the budget, we have to use a special 13-page form that is electronic, and we have to fill it out with detailed information to make it more accessible to the public. We have to post it on our borough website, and we have to submit it on top of our budget that we send to the DCA. And if we don't, then we don't get our state aid. And in order to complete the process of the 13 pages, we have to spend additional money on our auditor, whoever our auditor is, because it requires information that the auditor does not have currently, and it would require additional staffing and manpower, and Alan, of course, can clarify and elaborate on anything that I'm saying, to provide all the necessary information to the auditor. In addition, the seminar I recently went to indicated that the form at the DCA, the computer form, they don't have all of the, reminds you of the Affordable Health Act, where the software is not usable yet for auditors or CFOs to fill out all of the necessary 13-page form. And in addition, it takes effect now and has to be included in the 2015 budget. So the Bergen County League of Municipalities has drafted a resolution at least requiring that this unfunded state mandate not be effective until the 2016 fiscal year. Alan, anything else?
I know you had a presentation by an auditing firm, and while that will probably be true of most municipalities where the auditor is involved in putting this together, in our case, I have it about 90-95% done at this point. But you should know that it took me about a week and a half working on and off, to get this done and get all the data together. And I'll spend a good part of tomorrow finalizing the budget and finalizing this document to get it down. And we have to send it hard copy electronically, and then we'll have to get it posted up onto the website for general information. So while we have it in hand, it certainly was an effort, and this is my file on all of the different versions that we've gone through with them. But you're absolutely right. There's a lot of work involved in this.
And to me, the irony is that the user-friendly was supposed to be user-friendly is not very user-friendly. I mean, I'm all for more disclosure, and I think the more simpler we can present the budget to the public, the better. I don't think this really accomplishes that, because looking at the forms, a lot of it, they just take the standard budget form and they consolidate certain categories, and to me, it's not really going to have the desired effect.
It's equally as confusing.
I think so. I think when you look at it, I don't think the public's going to get any more clarity of the budget than they would have by just reading the budget document that we post anyway. But I still appreciate Alan doing what he did to get most of it done. I think whatever we can put up, we should do. But, I mean, again, like I talk about the issue with the cap and the way that the state handles that. They come up with these mandates. I'm sure, the finance committee now can come up with a better way of putting information on our website to make it clear to the public, how their money's being spent than this 13-page, fill-in-the-blank kind of worksheet they provided. So
Should be a pie chart and just leave it there.
well, that's what people respond to.
Pie chart.
Just an image.
Show trends. I mean, we've done trend analysis. Alan's done it. I think those are the things that show people more than the way it's laid out. So,
All right, we're up to unfinished business. There are a number of matters that are ongoing on our unfinished business list. Does any member of council want to address any of these issues or raise an additional unfinished business issue?
Look, Tom had his hand up first.
I received, I think everyone else probably received, from Mr. Grushka, Gruska, this issue about the historic element.
But that's not exactly the issue that he wrote the letter about. He wrote the letter about his home being designated as a historic property.
And that...
It will play into this, though.
Yes. So I was wondering if I could have some clarity on this, because I read his piece and it seems like it's being declared a historic property without his consent.
This has been ongoing for many years.
The way I understand it is, Mr. Grishka's property became an issue when I think it was either last year or the year before, the Historic Commission presented a proposal to include Mr. Grushka's property on the historic list. That raised questions in my mind as to whether our historic element was properly adopted, because I asked a couple of questions about what kind of notice he received and this, that, and the other thing, and it led to this investigation I think that Ed was involved in and our planning board attorney was involved in, and that indicates that the historic element was never formally adopted.
I remember that conversation.
So, Mr. Grushka's property got totally sidetracked. Now we are redoing the historic element, hopefully correctly.
Yeah.
And Mr. Grushka's property is still not on the historic property list.
That's what I thought. So that's why it's later confusing me.
So, first we have to amend the master plan to adopt the historic element, which has not been done yet.
Yeah.
Then, after we do that, then if and only if the Historic Commission wants to come back in to include Mr. Grushka's property and give him all of the required notice and hold the hearings, they can do that.
That's what I thought too. So that's why this letter completely confused me.
It's a little premature, his letter.
No, what he's objecting to was when they had the hearing in front of the Historic Commission, he raised this objection that he did not want his house to be designated.
But it hasn't been, I thought.
No, it hadn't been, no. But the commission voted to do it, to deem it anyway. The mayor's correct, then it has to go on the historic element. The issue that started all this was when the Historic Commission wanted to add 2 new properties to the historic list. I went back and I said, they were on the original list.
I remember that conversation.
There was a difference between what went to the planning board and what was ultimately approved by the mayor and council. The 2 properties that are now subject to consideration were dropped originally for whatever reason in 2003, whenever it was.
No, I remember all that.
Yes, so Mr. Grushka was basically saying that, reiterating his concern about the way the first process went. And there's also an issue or a requirement under our ordinance that if it's with an objection, you need, I think, 5 votes on the council to amend the ordinance, not a majority.
Yes.
So
his letter isn't germane to what's going on right now,
No.
is my understanding.
No.
Okay.
Well, it was germane to the fact that the commission did already vote to give his house that designation.
It's true, but it wasn't a valid.
That vote...
No, that was valid. They did that. They had a full hearing. Yes, they did.
I know, but they did it at a time when the historic element had not been properly adopted. So
That's
that
why
vote
it's invalid.
is invalid.
Yes,
But the commission still has the independent authority to do that without having the master plan amended.
In the future, if they want to do that.
Okay, I get it now. Thank you. I'm sorry to take the council's time.
When we had at the last planning board meeting on last Thursday night, we had an update from Bridget Bogart, who submitted the draft of the historic element, and I specifically asked her about Mr. Grushka's property, and she indicated to me that the Historic Commission has no further interest in designating Mr. Grushka's property. That's what she told me.
Okay, so has anyone communicated that to him?
No, because it was, I heard it from the planner, not from anybody in the Historic Commission. So.
It would be nice to get that clarified. You're the liaison, right?
All right, so anybody else? Ellen.
Thank you, Mayor. Under townwide communications and notifications, we started talking about this in September. Alan conducted a survey of all the borough departments, and while we've made good strides, I believe, in townwide communication and notifications, one of the outstanding pieces that the borough departments were interested in were being able to use social media to communicate, and our borough attorney, as a result, drafted a social media policy, and I'd like to add social media policy to the unfinished business list so that we can move that forward to provide those departments with what tools they think they need to better communicate with our residents. So I'd like to make a motion that we add social media policy to unfinished business.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Only putting it on a list, that's fine.
Could we
Thank you.
remove HVAC and generator fire company number 2? Well, the generator is not done. I know, but
Can we remove
it's
HVAC?
it's whether, you know, we need the grant, I don't know whether...
Is it working?
Is there a motion to remove HVAC, the fourth item?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Well,
All in favor?
are we satisfied with what they've done?
Satisfied.
Well, doesn't mean we can't talk about it, I just don't know whether it has to keep showing up on
Right.
the agenda.
Well, it helps to remind us to talk about it.
If it gets hot or cold, we'll be reminded.
So we just need a vote, Mayor. Mayor?
Yes.
Just need to say all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Why was the Shade Tree Commission on?
Because they're supposed to be changing their message.
Instead of, we'll never call you or something like that?
They have changed their form and their message and the way that they're contacting the public. They're
I'd just like to
updating
leave
their...
this until I get a chance to call that number.
Let's call it right now.
1-800.
I'm not stopping the meeting, so you...
No, I'll just call and I'll let you know.
Maybe
And then
we should
can
remove
that.
Grove Street too, because that, I don't see any action on that this year, and it can always be reinstated.
Well, I didn't get a chance to speak about unfinished business, and it will include Grove Street. Anybody else?
I'm still waiting for the subcommittee to report back on the senior community center survey.
Ed, I, and
Vito,
along with Mr. Kenzani, met and were presented with a, what do you call that document, Ed?
programming needs.
A program, which was supposed to form the basis of an RFP.
Yeah.
And I believe Vito was going to give that to Alan. And then Alan would be tasked with soliciting the RFPs.
Wouldn't the council get a chance to review that before that occurs?
If they want to.
I would like to.
Okay. Well, I don't know who has the, I'm pretty
Well,
sure...
if you don't know, then it's not you, and that leaves Ed and Vito.
Yeah.
No, we all had a copy of it.
No, I think I have a copy.
Yeah,
I'm
we all
trying to
have.
remember if I have a copy.
Yeah.
I don't know, Alan, did you ever get a copy?
There were still
I never saw
some
it.
technical issues I was supposed to sit down with Vito to talk about, because that were not covered in that, but, so I could circulate the document to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Kathleen?
I had a question from the resident on Center Avenue regarding the handicap spot. They just want to know what the progress is on the DPW or somebody ordering the sign or coming out there to paint it or whatever has to get done.
It's not done.
No.
I'll follow up on that.
All right.
Also, I did contact the computer IT business that New Milford uses, so I'm hoping that they can come in here and do a presentation, or we can meet with them on the technology committee, because I know that you liked the work that they've done over there with their website, so we're getting going with that and have a meeting with them.
One point out, Mayor. Have you got more information in regard to Verizon and the issue with the phone?
No. Diane got back to me, and also Neil had again contacted our sales rep, which is Julian Williams, and somehow it filtered through him that we need the ACD, and he was supposed to kick it up to somebody else to see if that's what was needed, and I have not heard back yet.
From who? Who do we need?
Diana said that she was going to contact me by the end of last week.
And I will call Diane. I think we're narrowing down the cause of the problem. So the question is, we need them to tell us how they're going to fix it. I'll reach out to them, too. And there's no motion at DPW, from what I understand, that's been fixed. So,
All right, anybody else on unfinished business? I missed the last council meeting, and I know that two things were discussed on the council that I would like just some guidance on. One was the 24-hour ordinance. There was a proposal that came from the planning board that was drafted by Mr. Sarlo that would include a 200-foot restriction for 24-hour businesses. I believe it was tabled according to my conversation with Vito, but I don't know, or I'd like to get direction from the council as to whether they want to bring it back at some point, discuss changes in the language. Let me finish my question.
okay.
Okay? Or just go with what we have.
I would just consider going with what we have, is what the statement that we decided upon last time.
But I indicated that I thought it would be public policy that we should discuss down the road, but that we should not be doing any changes at the moment that would impact a business that's under construction.
And I concurred with that position.
Okay, that's a reasonable approach to the issue of proliferation of 24-hour businesses. Does the council want to have an ordinance ready when this business begins operation for future use, or does it just want to... Well, I know you don't, Kathleen, but maybe I'd like to gauge from the rest of the council.
We can have a lot of ordinances ready for other things. You know, you just don't have them ready to just throw out there.
All right. Anybody else have a comment?
Yes.
Let's stick with what we got.
I'm more on board with what Ellen was saying. I don't have an objection to looking at some of the language and whether we want to tighten up the language. I don't think, the 200 feet is a non-starter. It doesn't apply anywhere in town. So if we don't want to have them, we just ban them. So you can't go with a 200-foot rule on residential properties because we're always within 200 feet in any of our commercial zones. But if you want to look at the language at the type of businesses and other things, I'd be certainly open to look at that.
Okay. Anthony?
Yeah, just stay with what we have, the original course. And that was without the agreement made with the 7-Eleven.
There isn't any agreement.
I'm saying the understanding of what we were going to do.
7-Eleven may have an understanding, but we don't.
I'm seconding and agreeing with Councilwoman Castile that we were going to talk about it maybe in the future.
Okay. That's all
I'm open to that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you never want it. You never want it raised again.
No.
I just want to put
It's fine to raise it. I thought it was, it's all reasonable to think about in the future. At this point, it doesn't seem to be very pressing at the moment.
I don't want to spin my wheels here. I'm a proactive mayor. I want to get things accomplished. So if council tells me in a majority voice, we never want to bring this issue up again as long as we live, then I'll
That is not what has been conveyed, to bring it up as long as we
can live. And you made that perfectly clear.
No.
Ellen has said, we have a business that's under construction. When it begins the operation, we should take a look at it again.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think Ed and Thomas said that's a reasonable approach.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
I think Mr. Coppola is saying, let's look at it again in a little while.
Sure.
I just want to know that when this business opens its doors and puts up its 24-hour sign, that we may be all on the same page as to what we want to do going forward.
I think we have a lot of priorities that we have to...
I'm sure we have plenty of priorities. The other thing on their unfinished business, because I missed the meeting, was the capital alternatives. As our grant consultant, I was informed that Marlene Casey from Capital Alternative made a presentation. As council knows, we were successful using Capital Alternatives to get $1.2 million in grants in the last funding cycle. that doesn't come from River Edge taxpayers' pockets to do public projects, money that we didn't have to raise in our capital budget, and I believe that she only suggested one grant application for the S-curve at the foot of Tenney Avenue that leads to KGB and the swim club. And she indicated that according to her consultant, which used to award these kind of grants and work for the DOT, that it would be a very highly scored application. I believe that she came up with an estimate as to what the application would include, which was about $300,000. And then I saw in the minutes that there was a motion and no second for that. And I wanted to know why we don't feel the need to apply for any DOT grants, or just that particular grant. If anybody has a better idea for a grant, maybe they can come forward with it. Because I know that in our capital budget, we had set aside money for the guardrail in that exact location, which the cost of which would be covered by this grant application, and we wouldn't have to spend our own money. We could be spending other people's money.
Well, respectfully disagree, Mayor. It's not other people's money. It's our money, too. And the $30,000 for the repair of the guardrail is in our budget. You're talking $400,000 to do this project. So not only would it have cost us $300,000 for the grant, there's $100,000 in soft costs in addition to the $300,000. So $400,000 we're going to spend. I think we're better off spending the $30,000 in the capital budget, getting the problem fixed now. And with all due respect to Ms. Casey, she sat here and basically said, you know, you guys have to be on notice. You have a very dangerous situation down there, and you better fix it. And we've been proactive. It's going to be fixed. If we get this, apply for this grant, who knows even when it would even come in and when the work will get fixed. But I don't like getting lectured to about whether we're doing things for safety reasons or not. And to present a plan without a scope, without a detailed cost estimate. And when I said, are we looking at $100,000 in additional soft costs, she said, you're probably correct. So, with all due respect, you know, $300,000 in free money means we have to pay another $100,000. So, to me, it was not a compelling case to add another $100,000 of capital debt on top of the $400,000 or $500,000 we're going to be adding tonight for the other two projects. So that's why I was not in favor of it.
All right, thank you. I don't know where you're getting your $100,000.
Because there's a $30,000 fee to her.
I know that usually there's correct me if I'm wrong, like we just approved $30,000 in engineering and soft costs for a $150,000 project. So isn't it usually about 20%?
Yes.
Soft costs?
Yes, but it's also 10% her cost. So if she gets 30%,
30%.
And Mr. Costa would have gotten 60. Okay, so I'll correct myself. It was 90,000, not 100,000.
Okay. But then we can do a $300,000 project instead of a $30,000.
No, we're going to do a $400,000 project, but the main part that we're doing this for is the $30,000 repair on the guide rail that we're paying for. The same thing with the generator down Company 2. We had a $30,000 generator, which now is going to cost us $100-something thousand trying to get a FEMA grant for. And that's not going to do the whole thing. So the question is, when you do grants, you need to make sure that you're going to cover the cost of the project and not have the scope creep, which always seems to happen, and then you end up spending much more than you originally intended for projects which generally aren't priority to begin with, or else they would have been under our prioritized under our capital budget to begin with.
All right, but that particular stretch of Tenney Avenue is frequently traveled by people that go to the park and go to the DPW and go to the swim club.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. But if the road needs to be repaved, then we should be putting that higher up on the priority list, and it should be done this year then. But Mr. Lynch didn't think that was in the top 10 roads because it didn't show up on the list. If that's what we think, then that's where the money should go, and we should hold off one of the streets for next year. But to say we're going to wait till next year...
I'm not talking about streets, I'm talking about...
Well, she was talking about the street. She wants to pave it and curb it and then do the guide rail.
There's no sidewalks, right?
Yes.
There's no sidewalk at the end of Tenny.
No.
No.
It goes right over to just the asphalt.
Yeah.
But you could put a sidewalk in too. If that's your priority and you want to spend the money, you do that. But
I mean, it is a blind curve that, people going with the swim lessons up and down many times.
She didn't put that in her scope. She talked about the railroad
crossing. You make that
crossing.
turn, it's pretty dangerous.
Her emphasis was on the poor condition of the pavement, the railroad crossing itself, and the guide rail. We didn't see any other scope. We didn't have a hard number on the budget.
It's not up to, that railroad crossing is not up to current standards, correct?
I don't know that. That's what she said, but I don't know that's the case. I'm not an expert on railroad crossings.
All right.
And if it's not, then we should be writing a letter to New Jersey Transit and having them fix it immediately, if it's not standard.
No, I don't mean the signalization, the standard, I mean
The crossing itself, the
crossing
The whole
itself.
design, it's really...
No, what she's talking about the condition of the
Well, they're
asphalt.
giving us enough money to hang ourselves, so, well, they want to give us enough money to hang ourselves.
Maybe it's behind the 8 ball.
No, we're not behind the 8 ball. Well, if we take that money, we will be. Or try to get the money.
All I'm saying, if council decides that's a priority, then we fund it and do it. But you can't just wait for grants to come and then spend 10, 20, 30% more for things I said, which aren't considered priorities until she walks in and sees the grant for it.
With a little bit of fear-mongering added in there.
Well, that was part of it too, and that I don't appreciate.
The sell.
Okay, we're up to new business, July 4th Grand Marshal recommendation. We're all patient, we're all eagerly awaiting.
Thank you, Mayor. The July 4th committee met last week, and we had several very, very deserving residents to serve as Grand Marshal. The committee deliberated for quite a long time, and as a result, we are putting forth the name of Don Dunleavy to be Grand Marshal for the 2015 July 4th Parade in River Edge. For those of you that don't know about Don, I'll give you a little bit of background. He's been a resident of River Edge since the early 1960s, and for most of that time he's dedicated his life to the Boy Scouts. He has been a leader in Troop 184 in town, which has graduated an unprecedented number of Eagle Scouts. I know we've heard Ed talk about that. For 50 years, he has volunteered his time to be a leader of the scouting programs ever since his children entered scouting. He was responsible for annual Van Saun Park Mill Creek cleanups, an intercongregational Scout Sunday and Sabbath with the River Edge churches and synagogues. And I put Don Dunleavy forth as the Grand Marshal of the 2015 July 4th Parade.
I would definitely second it.
All right, there's a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, anything else on the work session agenda? I don't see anything.
Mayor, sorry, I just had one other thing. This probably is old business, but I was contacted by a resident about the crosswalk stanchions by the library that they've been missing for quite a while. So if that can be looked at, all of the stanchions.
Yeah, they're missing all over.
They are, yeah.
The one at the Reservoir is missing, the one at Kung Fung Supermarket is missing.
That's the one that's like, nobody can cross the street there.
Yeah.
So I'll send a note to the police chief.
Which one, Midland and Bogart's missing too.
Yeah, they're not in Wayne and Bogart either. Yeah.
I think Little Ferry's taken.
Well, the one Wayne, I know that one gets hit quite a bit with the school traffic.
All right, it is after 10 p.m. That, under our bylaws, that requires a motion to continue.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'd like to go back into the public portion of the meeting. We are up to appointments and personnel changes. They are listed on the back of page 1. Does any council member want to pull out for a separate discussion vote any of the appointments or personnel changes that are included on the back of page 1 of the agenda? Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
For all of them, and a vote by acclamation, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed, any abstaining? For the benefit of the public, page 3 includes a list of correspondence, letters, and notices that are available for review by any member of the public who so chooses by seeing the municipal clerk. In addition, we have monthly reports from the library board, the tax collector, and the fire prevention. I would respectfully request...
We've already tabled the liaisons.
To table the liaison reports for this evening and to relist them for the next meeting. We have ordinances that are on for first reading. Ordinance number 1829, which is a bond ordinance authorizing the making of various public improvements in and by the Borough of River Edge, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $840,000, to pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds, to finance the appropriation, and to provide the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of these bonds. This I believe, is for the, Alan?
Mayor, it's for the capital list that was reviewed as part of the budget preparation process. Contains such things as the guardrail on Riverside Way, the KBG field lights, Cherry Blossom Park, some engineering work there, River Edge Community Center, Fire Company number 2 generator, street sweeper, DPW dump truck, fire equipment, head walls, valley, things of that nature.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt this on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Paul?
Yes.
Councilman Lucy?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
All right. Ordinance number 1829 will be advertised in the Record and/or the Ridgewood News. It'll be listed for a public hearing. After the public hearing, it will be voted on for final adoption. Next, we have ordinance number 1830, which is a bond ordinance to authorize the making of various public improvements, the acquisition of new or additional replacement equipment, machinery, new technology equipment, new communication and signal system equipment, new furnishings, automotive vehicles, original apparatus equipment, in and by and for the Borough of River Edge, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, the approximate sum of $543,000, pay the cost thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds, to finance the appropriation, and to provide the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Capolo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lucy?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
All right. Ordinance number 1830 will be published in the newspaper. It'll be listed for a public hearing. After the public hearing, it'll be voted on for final adoption. Ordinance number 1831 is a bond ordinance to authorize the Kinderkamak Road Regional Revitalization Project Phase 3 in and by for the Borough of River Edge, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $1,090,000 and pay the cost thereof, to authorize the issuance of bonds to finance the appropriation, to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds. This is for the streetscape project, correct?
Correct.
Is there a motion for first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Capolo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lucy?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
No.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
All right. Ordinance number 1831 will be published. After the publication, will be listed for a public hearing. After the public hearing, it will be voted on for final adoption. Ordinance number 1832 is a bond ordinance to authorize the undertaking of school safety improvement project in the vicinity of the Riverdale Middle School, Cherry Hill School, Roosevelt School, in and by and for the borough of River Edge in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, in the appropriate sum of $450,000 to pay the cost thereof, to authorize the issuance of such bonds to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of this bond. This is part of a grant that we received. Is that correct, Alan?
Yes, and it's for the Midland sidewalk ramps, Woodland as well.
Okay.
And what was the grant amount net, Alan?
$300,000?
And we're bonding
I'd have to check.
If it includes Midland, it would include the 150.
No, that's what,
No.
this is the separate one, but there is some scope overlap.
Yeah.
I think it says 315,000 to be exact.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Colo?
No.
Councilwoman Dees?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
No.
Councilman Papaletti?
Yes.
Alan, can I ask on this ordinance and the previous, that prior to the public hearing, if we can actually have a revised scope for the project and a revised cost estimate for these projects, based on what,
Well, we don't have an engineer to provide that
Well-
at this point. All you have is a grant application. So this
No
ordinance
one's
would
just-
have to be adopted, we'd have to hire an engineer, and then we could get
So we don't
those-
know
those
what-
costs.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, this ordinance will be published in the newspaper. It will be set down for a public hearing. After the public hearing, it will be voted on for final adoption. Ordinance number 1833, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 1820 to fix the salary, wage, and compensation of officers and employees of the Borough of River Edge, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, for the year 2015. This is a 2015 general salary ordinance. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Colo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dees?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Papaletti?
Yes.
All right. This ordinance will be published in the newspaper. It will be set down for a public hearing with notice to the public. After the public hearing, it will be voted on by the council for final adoption. In addition to the ordinances that are on for first reading, tonight we have ordinances that are issued that are on the agenda for second reading, which requires a public hearing and then a vote on the final adoption. The first ordinance that is on for a second reading and a public hearing is ordinance number 1826. This is an ordinance appropriating the sum of $11,300 for the General Capital Fund, Capital Improvement Fund, for the purchase of equipment. Can I have a motion, please, to open this hearing to the public on ordinance number 1826?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. We are now open to the public. Does any member of the public wish to comment on ordinance number 1826 in the sum of $11,300 for the purchase of equipment? Can I close the public hearing on ordinance number 1826?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
And can I have a motion for the final adoption of ordinance number 1826?
So moved.
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Colo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dees?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Papaletti?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That ordinance, it passes and it is adopted. Next is ordinance number 1827, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $40,000 for the General Capital Fund balance for the purchase of equipment and improvement of borough buildings and grounds. Can I have a motion, please, to open to the public on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are now open to the public. If any member of the public wishes to comment on ordinance number 1827 regarding the sum of $40,000 for improvements to buildings and grounds and the purchase of equipment, they can be recognized. All right, can I have a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance number 1827?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion for the final adoption of ordinance number 1827?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a
Second.
A roll call, please.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Paula?
Yes.
Councilwoman Steve?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
And finally, we have ordinance number 1828. This is a bond ordinance to authorize the resurfacing of Fifth Avenue, known as Section 2, approximately 120 feet north of Olympia Drive to approximately 20 feet north of Wayne Avenue, a general improvement and the construction and reconstruction of sidewalks, curbs, and driveway aprons in along the front of such section of Fifth Avenue, a sidewalk improvement in, by, and for the Borough of River Edge, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $190,000 to pay the cost thereof, to authorize the issuance of bonds, to finance such appropriation, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of such bonds. This $190,000 includes a $150,000 grant that we received from the DOT for Section 2. Can I please have a motion to have a public hearing on ordinance number 1828?
Second. No, so moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
There was. Yeah.
Motion.
I'm
Second.
sorry, I
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are now open to the public, for any member of the public who wishes to comment on ordinance number 1828 for the continued resurfacing and roadway, sidewalk, and driveway apron improvements to this section of Fifth Avenue. Can I have a motion, please, to close the public hearing on ordinance number 1828?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I please have a motion for the final adoption of ordinance number 1828?
Councilwoman Murphy? Okay, she stepped down.
She stepped
We didn't
down.
read-
Councilman
we-
Capolo?
Yeah.
Did we make a
I mean,
motion?
I'm like, she's
Did
asking.
we make a motion?
Yes.
Yes. Councilwoman Steve?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 1828 is adopted. We are up to the resolution list. We have resolutions 15-156 up to and including 15-175, which is a new agreement, new labor agreement with the Department of Public Works. Would any member of the governing body like to pull out a resolution for discussion or separate vote?
We had, hold on one second.
I don't have...
The 15-160,
Oh,
we're talking about the rehabilitation versus the
Yes.
15-160.
Do we vote on that
Redevelopment.
separately?
We're going to change the language on that.
To have her split it out?
Right.
Oh, were you not here?
Oh, you came late, that's
Oh,
what.
are we... Oh, I didn't know what that was. We agreed.
And then,
Oh, good.
Okay.
so,
15160 will be amended.
Will be
reflecting
approved.
the
I'd like
language
separate vote on that.
As amended, right?
Yes.
Mayor, also, we can pull out 15156, the budget, and 15171, please.
15-156, the budget. 15-160,
160, and then... And 171.
And 171.
Ed, you want them as separate votes, is that
Yes.
the idea?
and what was the, I'm sorry, 15-169, the farmer's market, was that in reference to Gigi coming up, or?
No, that's a reference to just setting the dates.
Seven dates for June 9th.
Okay, forget that then, thank you.
All right.
No, I didn't know if it had to do, just
No.
with the farmers.
Amend the date.
Can someone read the amended language for 15160? Do we have...
Sorry.
I can say what it's going to read. I think what we're voting on will be enter into agreement with Bridget Bogart, 36 Harvey Court, Wyckoff, for professional services related to conducting an investigation whether parcel proposed no development on lots 3 and block 4 in block 1303 meet the criteria
For
for
redevelopment.
area redevelopment, and authorize just the first task.
All right, 15-156, is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman DePaula?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dees?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
Yes.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
Just want to reiterate, I think we've made tremendous strides with the budget over the past 4 years, and but it doesn't mean that the work is over. There's still a lot of pressures going forward. We're seeing it tonight with added bonding, added borrowing. That's going to translate into higher debt service, which is going to eat up whatever little cushion we have in terms of our appropriation cap, even though some of that's outside the cap. It certainly put pressure on maintaining a levy cap. We're going to have wage pressures as people advance in the scales going forward, with still issues with things like the pensions and health care benefits. So I still think, we still should be of the mindset that we need to continue to show fiscal restraint, fund projects which are necessary, and be very, very judicious when we decide, especially on large-scale capital projects, if we really can afford the debt service going forward, because over the last few years, our debt service has gone up $200,000 a year, and that's more than a tax point. That's equivalent of $50 or $60 to the average homeowner. And tonight, just based on the 2 bond ordinances for the 2 quote-unquote free money we're getting, $800,000 in grants, the $800,000 project, we've added $562,000 between the 2 projects, $800,000 and $315,000. We've added $562,000 in additional bonding on top of what we're getting back. That's a significant amount of money to add. That's like 5 tax points. That would have been an increase of $150, $175 to the average taxpayer if we were to put that in the budget this year. And that's where we're not seeing the problem with getting these grants. It's that's going to have to be bonded. That's not coming back to us. It's not free money. We have to pay for it. And we already bonded $1.3 million this year for capital, so we essentially added another almost $600,000. So these are the things we need to be aware of going forward, or else we're not going to be able to keep the tax base or the tax levy stable, and we're going to have a bigger problem trying to stay within our levy cap and the appropriation cap going forward. So
15-160. Is there a motion?
So moved.
To change to the redevelopment
Yeah.
as I proposed.
To have it split into 2 parts.
Yeah, as amended.
Yes, as amended.
Second.
Yep.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman DePaula?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dees?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
No.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
15-171. Is there a motion?
That's to amend the capital budget for the $800,000 and or the $1.3 million, the $1.0 million and the
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman DePaula?
Yes.
Councilwoman Dees?
Yes.
Councilman Mignon?
No.
Councilman Papaleo?
Yes.
All right, the remainder of the resolution list, with the exception of 15-173.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Mignon, can you read and move 15-173?
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas vouchers for the payment of goods and services rendered to the Borough of River Edge have been received, and whereas each bill has been checked by the receiving department, approved by the Chief Financial Officer and Borough Clerk, and reviewed by the 3 members of the Finance Committee. Now therefore be it resolved that bills as listed now be confirmed for payment from the appropriate funds as follows. Current account, $183,448.58. Capital account, $140,260. Recreation account, $4,241.94. Trust other account, $18,922. Open space account, $5,115. And trust other developer account, $437.50. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now is the time to open the hearing to the public on any issue. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anybody want to be heard? Yes, ma'am. And then you're next, ma'am.
This is Carlo regarding attendance records. We have attendance records many, many years back when we were supposed to go into the American Legion building, when we were supposed to have our own building. We have records, and I know they're many years ago, so that there are attendance records of the people that have attended regularly and that are volunteers and keeping this club together. We have some people that have gone out of their way early morning hours when our own River Edge residents have not. And I don't really see how this organization could even continue without their volunteering. It's just not even going to be accepted. And I think that just the fact that they're allowed to come is not even an issue. Why wouldn't they allowed to come? I mean, of course, at the Monday meeting, people were told that they don't belong and that they can't be here. We have some very rude members that have taken over to decide before we even have an election who's in charge. And as far as attendance records go, we have them. So if that is the blocking point, Mr. Sawley, you had said that was an issue, that we don't have attendance records.
I was just told there was no membership records.
There are.
That's what I was told. But
Well, I can present them to you.
I don't need them. It's beyond I just changed the ordinance in conformity or with the request of the mayor and council, but I was just told there's no membership. All I was telling the mayor and council is you need to formalize your membership so then you can move on towards the next step, which is the election of officers. So if the membership roles are there and they're all accounted for, and you've taken attendance, and if the attendance equates to being a member, great, you can then move on to the election of officers. That's all.
What about the voting we just had?
Are you saying that there are members of SCORE that are very involved in for years in the program, and that they're not River Edge residents?
Exactly.
So where do they give me an example of where they live? What towns do they live in? Close by, neighboring towns, real far, other counties?
We have Teaneck, we have New Milford, we have...
So those are all towns that are on our border. Teaneck, New Milford...
Well, they're all in Bergen County, that's what you mean.
Where else?
New Milford, Paramus, Leonia, Oradell. These are all people that have been very vibrant in our organization.
Okay, all right.
And one of them, for example, prints the attendance sheet records for us. He's very computer literate. He does them beautifully.
Well, when SCORE gets organized and they get going, one of the things that they could request, like, let me give you an example. We have a River Edge Fire Department. I'm sure you're aware of that. We have members of our fire department that live in other towns. They live in Teaneck, they live in Oradell, they live in New Milford, because our ordinance, the way it was changed over the course of years, allows someone who lives in a adjoining town to become a member of the River Edge Fire Department, as long as they live within a certain, I forget what the ordinance says, 5 miles,
2 miles.
3 miles, or
Under 2 miles.
whatever it is. Once SCORE gets going and it gets operating and you have an election and you have officers, you may want to put that in your bylaws, that you could become a member if you live in one of the adjoining towns.
Mayor.
We have to get SCORE started.
But Mayor, we had an election on Monday, And those people that came from the Tuesday group did vote for the bylaws. We already had the bylaws elected. I voted.
Well, the bylaws can be changed now. Now that you have bylaws, you have to have an election of officers. Then if you want to change the bylaws to allow membership from the neighboring towns, just amend your bylaws.
Well, but the bylaws that we voted on said that...
I'm giving you a solution. I'm giving you a solution. The bylaws that you amended say you got to be a River Edge resident, right?
No, the ones we voted on said anybody who pays their dues is a member 60 years or older and lives within Bergen County. It never specifically said you must live in River Edge to vote, to be just a River Edge person to be in this club. It said anybody in Bergen County. I have the ordinance here.
I know what the ordinance says. Ellen, did you want to make a comment?
The only comment I would like to make is that there are other voices to be heard in this discussion as well, and those voices indicated to Councilman Coppola and I their concern that membership should be River Edge residents who are the taxpayers of this community who benefit from the organization, but that non-residents are welcome to participate in those activities.
It should say grant money is given to Bergen County residents that is the same people.
And they have every right to and that's why they have every right to participate in the activities.
Don't our members go to other towns and participate?
Yes.
They go to New Milford to play bingo?
There's no other club like ours because they all have paid directors and there's not that many volunteers. This organization only runs by volunteers. And you take away the rights of the volunteers that are working the hardest. The people in River Edge were, for various reasons, disabilities or what have you, are not the volunteering people that run this club. They don't even have the capacities that the other people are giving us. I mean, this organization is different. We're private, and the others are county run, and they're paid help. We don't have anybody getting paid here. And we're grateful for these volunteers. I could just pass this around if you...
Like New Milford has a paid director over there?
Where?
In New Milford?
Yes, New Milford does.
They have a paid director because they have the Meals on Wheels program there.
Yeah, they're 5 days a week, and they're in a building.
Right, their own building.
We're very different from anybody else because we rent a space, and it's only 2 days. We're not really judged the same way.
And some of our members go to Fair Lawn, right?
We go all over Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday if we choose to, but Monday and Tuesday we're here in River Edge. But I would like to show you this letter.
I think the lawyer guy there.
The lawyer guy.
It's not the same to be compared to anything else. These are our volunteers that get up 5 o'clock in the mornings to pick up bagels that are donated for us. And River Edge residents are lucky. We give them bagels from somebody from Lyndhurst to pick them up. They're benefiting from our outside volunteers. I mean, I'm not just, making up a story. There's the names in the town.
Ma'am, to answer a question, I'm just not understanding something. Are the people that you're speaking of, are they upset that they're not called members, or are they not happy that they cannot serve as officers and vote for the officers? Those are two different issues. I'm just trying to understand what...
Anthony Coppola, about what happens if we come to the point where we don't have a River Edge resident that wants to be a vice president or a secretary. What if that happens? He said we might have to ask one of our Bergen County residents, and they're maybe better qualified than someone in River Edge. That may happen.
So I know the fire department, they had an issue and with allowing people to be officers, and now it's only, I believe, residents that can be an officer. in
No.
the department. No?
They amended their bylaws.
That's the other point.
Well, to the mayor's point, he's saying
To allow.
things can be changed.
To
Like I was saying, it's not in granite as
Another town to
but
be an officer.
and nothing's really
Yeah, that
changing
was-
day to day.
It's a point of contention about that.
I think in the September minutes.
Yeah, just change the bylaws.
Right.
What
Nothing's changed in
happened
ordinance.
is, when we first came with our issues here, Carol Moore said, "Why are you discriminating against me? Why don't you let my Oradell people on my executive board be officers?" And she fought vehemently to get the Oradell people in. And then it was decided that in order to be an officer in the River Ridge School, you have to live in River Ridge. And that was acceptable. But she went one step further. They were thrown under the bus, her Oradell friends. Now, nobody could vote except if she lived in River Ridge. She went from one extreme to the other. I mean, she can really drive you nuts. But I feel that these people were always considered part of us. We were never separated as a difference. And that's what I'm saying. And now the discrimination is working the other way. She thought she was being discriminated against. Now they're being discriminated against. Except that the ones I'm fighting for are very, very capable people. And we don't have that many capable people. I'm sorry to say that they're wonderful people there, but they have a lot of disabilities. They need people to really run an organization, not just come and take.
I hear you.
I mean, I really think that that we're right now, we're all one. We're not Mondays and Tuesdays. We haven't had a meeting date like an organization. These bylaws are different for us now, to have a real setup. We've never had that kind of an organization. I'm just presenting the fact,
Okay.
what it really is.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Catherine Bound, 753 Summit Avenue. I'm here this year about similar issues that I came before the council about last year this time. I came about my curbing on Webb Avenue. I'm on the corner of Webb and Summit. And I was told last year that the DPW snowplows have absolutely wrecked the curb. And I was advised that there's an ordinance that I have to fix it last year. One, I'd like a copy of the ordinance because I kind of question it. Secondly, I wonder, because I've lived in town long enough to remember, there was sometimes shared costs involved between the town and the homeowner to replace sidewalks and curbs. I don't know if that still exists, but it did at some point. I wanted to ask about that. And then further, this summer, Webb Avenue was repaved. And my husband happened to be home when they milled the street up to Summit Avenue from the park. They chunked out a bit of curbing. I brought pictures for the council to look at. My husband mentioned something to the fellow and said, "Oh, okay, I'll mark it and I'll send a supervisor." So nobody came. My husband came to town hall. I think the borough clerk was in the basement over at the police plaza. And he just wanted to know what contracting company is doing the work, because this was not acceptable. And I think he was told that someone from Constant Engineering would come over and take a look. Ultimately, somebody from Constant Engineering, I don't know his name, identified himself as from Constant Engineering, took a look and said, "Somebody will get back to you." Then winter happened. And so the beautiful job of repaving that was done by the apron of my driveway is now chunked out, where they put the macadam up to the curb, now that's chunked out by the plows. I just feel it unconscionable that I have to pay for what is not normal wear and tear. It's caused by your trucks, because I'm on a school block, they want the snow cleared to the curb, which is understandable, even though they blocked the handicap access on the corner.
Can we see the pictures?
Sure. Excuse me?
She's saying DPW.
So,
She said the contractor.
so I'm just wondering about how I can proceed right now. I just am very unhappy about it. And I'd like to refer to the ordinance that you folks just approved, 1828, and I'm wondering if Webb Avenue was done by the same process. This is speaking about Fifth Avenue, and the appropriation covers curbs and driveway apron construction and reconstruction. Did that apply on Webb Avenue, and if so?
No.
Yeah, I don't know how that was funded. I just happened to look at this and wonder if it's the same process.
No, Alan?
First of all, we'll get you a copy of the ordinance tomorrow. We'll mail that out to you. The shared cost that you're talking about is a situation where we have a grant from the Department of Transportation or Community Development Block Grant. We're able to come in with the grant money and reconstruct a sidewalk, a curb, or a driveway apron. In those instances, those people are specially assessed for the engineering portion and a small administrative cost as well. That does not exist here on Webb. If some of the damage was caused by the contractor as part of the milling operation, then the borough's engineering firm, Costa Engineering, should contact that contractor and ask him to come back and take a look at that. So we'll have to follow up with the borough engineer and see if that determination can be made as to whether it was a result of the construction. If it was not part of the construction, if it was by the plows, then
I think it's both, actually. The milling really...
Unfortunately, in this borough, the onus is on the homeowner to maintain the curbs and the sidewalks, even though there may be a claim that, the borough caused the problem. You're certainly welcome to come up to the clerk's office and file a tort claim and see if the insurance company will reimburse you for your costs of taking care of that. But let's first pursue and see whether the contractor actually had something to do with the problem with the curb.
Yeah, you can see one of the pictures, they marked it in orange. They came back to the building person.
Is this one of the curbs that we're looking into putting in the ADA compliant curbs?
No, the corner is done. You mean the corner? Yeah, that's already done. And there's no flat pockets.
I'm just wondering, like, if we have to go and do this ADA, it's not we shouldn't repair it and then have to do it again.
That's what I'm afraid of. Or is there an ordinance that says I must have a curb? There are some areas in town on Elm, they have no curbs, no sidewalks. That would be perfect for me.
No curbs.
Is there an ordinance? Must I have a curb?
Planning land use requirement.
No, there are just some places in town where the borough never got around to putting in curbs and sidewalks.
So it is required, if it exists.
If you were going to build a new house there and knock down your old house, you'd probably most likely have to put in a curb and a sidewalk.
If this curb I'm being facetious, and I know that the hour is late. If I just let the curb go and not replace it at all, am I required to put a curb there?
Unless you get a letter from Mr. Sarlo or Mr. Costa, our engineer, telling you violated some ordinance and you're required to repair your curb, then I wouldn't worry about it.
It's the construction code officer in the statute.
Okay, so I can come to the office and get a copy of the ordinance?
We'll be happy to mail it out to you.
Okay, that'd be perfect. Okay. And someone will get back to me? I mean, you can keep the pictures, or were you going to...
I'll follow up with a letter to Mr. Costa and carbon copy you want it, so you'll get a copy of that. He'll come out, make an inspection, make a determination as to whether the contractor caused the problem.
Okay, and then I did come last year without placing a tree in the front of my house, and the gals in the division did come out probably the next day, mark the tree, take it down. So,
There's another tree planted?
yes, so...
Do you think it's gonna bloom? Think it's gonna bud this year?
I don't,
Okay.
I can't tell.
Keep us posted. If it dies, let us know.
I will say with the person should plant, because the 2 trees that were planted maybe 10 years ago on Webb were breaking down. But it had to be, the town that plants them.
Yeah, but we've gotten smarter in the last 10 years, and we don't plant these big, tall, 60-foot trees anymore. We plant trees.
They told me they were wonderful
Yeah.
trees. I'm looking at this. Anyway, and I would just like to ask about, I did mention something about requiring certificates of occupancy for rentals in town. I don't know if you recall.
We drafted it, we sent it to Board of Ed for their input, and that's the last my notes have.
Okay, because I didn't come back about it, because my husband had to chit-chat with someone who said, they're going to carry the ball.
I drafted a proposed ordinance, I believe it was sent to the Board of Ed for their comments.
There's both.
Right. We wanted to address the issue. We wanted feedback from the Board of Education so that if they wanted to weigh in on the situation, since many people in rental properties have children that enter the school system, and we've never gotten any response from the Board of Ed.
Okay, well, I'll follow up with that, because actually, I listened to Mr. Councilman Mignone, you're absolutely correct, and I suggested the CO as a revenue stream, not as a punitive measure for school children. Just to make that clear. And I hear the car show is coming up again for the park.
I missed the last meeting, so I heard that the council kind of punted on that issue. They didn't...
We didn't punt, we basically said keep the last year's agreement in place. That's what...
Well, I think that there's a different
unless they can-
interpretation. They originally had, 4 cars were allowed at one time, and then they came in looking for maybe 50, and they were allowed to have 10. So that was an increase of 6, which the rec department said was a compromise, and that's all they were willing to compromise. So, and now the organizer has asked for a lot more, so we asked them, perhaps, is there any way to compromise? And I believe the rec department said, well, we already have, by allowing the 10. So, he's still making the request,
I would like to just, I don't know who has the decision-making finally, whether it's the Senate, thank you, the rec commission or the council.
This council has the final decision.
I would really strongly urge the council not to let this go any further.
Meaning what? Further?
No more than 10. If that's what it was, that's what it should say.
So these cars, they are in pristine condition, that, they are brought to other car shows, and the organizers are willing to make an investment of a sound system that they're willing to share with other organizations in town. I know that you came last year and you were worried about environmental issues.
If it's raining and you have a day camp going on the next day...
If it's rainy, no car person will want to put their car in the park if it's raining.
We've already debated this, discussed it, and...
This woman is speaking in public.
Yes, but you're closing Continental Avenue, you've done that in the past. There is the parking lot of the cultural center and the old Veterans Building. I don't know that it's necessary. I think...
It's not enough.
I think what was done in the past, I think that was an argument that in some earlier time something else was done. Society didn't care what they did to the environment years ago, which is why we have so many Superfund cleanup sites. I'm not saying that this would result in that, but I think it's a concern it's a risk, and it's a cost to the town to remediate it.
We can also try it once, and if it doesn't work, don't do it again.
The issue was that it wasn't an issue of saying, let's take, and I suggested this, I said, well, maybe the rec commission would consider letting them take their 10 cars and putting them wherever they wanted. Try it on the grass, try it on the asphalt, stay with the 10 in one little area. But that's not what the car show people want. He wanted 85 cars. So when you're starting at 10 and somebody wants 85, they're not going to get in the middle there. It just wasn't going to work. So I think the consensus of the council, that was basically, you have that framework to work from. If you want to come up with another compromise, then bring it back to the commission. But that was the sense I got.
My own concern, and I know some of my neighbors, and people don't go to council meetings, certainly, I know you look busy folks, and we all are, but I would be against going any more than the 10, because that'll just nibble away to the whole park, and I just think that's wrong.
Thank you for...
And I do enjoy the car show. I have an old car myself, so it doesn't belong in the park. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing from you, Mr. Nevin.
All right. Can I have a motion? Anybody else wish to be heard? Yes.
I just wanted to apologize for my conversation out in the hallway, interrupted the proceedings.
Thank you. Anybody else? Can I have a motion to close to the public?
So moved. Second.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I want to make one announcement.
One comment.
The library is closed Thursday, April 23rd, and Friday, April 24th, due to the roof project. So I would like to make the public aware that the library will be closed those 2 dates. There's a Saturday, the Green Team is having a Second Chance toy collection over at Cherry Hill. Also document shredding, 9 to 12, I believe. You can bring up to 4 boxes of documents to be shred, and that's it.
We'll be able to see the documents being shredded, though.
If you go into it, yeah.
Yeah.
And you personally drop them, yeah.
Make sure my
Yeah.
documents...
That's it.
Where's the shredding going to be?
Going to be at Cherry Hill. They are collecting plastic toys to be given away to needy children, only plastic toys.
All right.
The Boy Scouts will be assisting them in their efforts to collect the toys.
Thank you. Anthony, any comments?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Ellen?
Yes, just 2 brief comments. I just want to congratulate the Recreation Department on another wonderful River Edge run on Saturday. The weather cooperated, and it was a great day, so congratulations to Bobby Conway and Jimmy Tehan and the rest of the commissioners and all the volunteers. A second thing, I just would like to say in honor of Earth Day, which is the 22nd, to remind all of our residents of our new recycling program, and that we are now only accepting 1, 2s, and 5s, and to please do your best to comply. And this information can also be found on the website.
Thank you. Ed?
Mr. Mayor, I apologize I came late to the closed session, but I was pleased to see that the DPW has approved or ratified the agreement, the bargaining agreement. And I just want to say to them, I thank them. They were very sincere in their concerns, and they were very diligent in working with us, and we tried to do our best to address their concerns, and they were very much understanding of the borough's financial position also, and I think that the agreement reflects that, and I do appreciate the time and effort they did, and I am pleased that they were able to ratify it. So I just want to say that publicly. Thank you.
Thomas, anything?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. I also want to join in with Ellen that the River Edge Run just keeps getting better and better every year. I want to thank Mr. Coppola, of course, for the great job that he does at the microphone, keeping the ball running, announcing it, keeping the show on the show going.
Ed walking and Tom Sarlo running and you, Mayor, walking. And
I took 2 minutes off my time.
you know, I was about to make a missing mayor's announcement, but we got you.
You got me. All right, and that's it. Everybody did a good job, and I hope we have, that was the 34th, and I hope I'm around for the 78th.
And also the health walk, that was very, I like the shirts.
That's right. And
the shirts were...
Well, we have liaison reports, so we'll speak to that, but I just figured I'd just leave out.
All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. You drink cake or coffee?
I'm actually having my coffee too.
You have tea?